Hello and welcome everyone to the first real episode, I guess, of Let's Talk MetaZoo in 2024. My name is Turmentic. We've took a couple weeks off, basically because of the holiday, everything like that. I started a new job, but we are tonight's going to be amazing. For the first episode of 2024, one of the big things that I kind of wanted to do was I want to introduce some of the MetaZoo community to some proper cryptid content creators. Like, this is what they do. They study them, they look at them, they talk about them. I met these guys back at CrypticCon in what is it, 2022, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Immediately fell in love with them. We're talking with Justin and Jay, the host of Cryptids of the Corn. Everybody, huge round of applause for these guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us. Oh yeah, thank you. We're excited to be here.
Like, I remember at CrypticCon, which I never got the chance to actually make that video, but the 2 days that we were there, you guys were some of my favorite that was actually there. Like, that's why I kept coming over to the table, hanging out with you and talking to you guys. You have a lot of extensive knowledge when it comes to cryptids. You have a lot of passion when it actually comes to cryptozoology and everything like that as well too. And like I said, I don't know how many people in the MetaZoo community itself know a lot of like my favorite cryptid content creators, like you guys, and then Strangeology, and then what is it, like Strange Road is another really good one. Like, there's really good people, there's really good content creators outside of MetaZoo that make cryptid content. So like, that's one of the things I really want to do, is kind of like highlight you guys. But of course, first question I always ask every single time anybody comes on the show is, what is your favorite cryptid and why is it Squonk?
Well, we can't announce fully about Squonk stuff yet.
Yes.
But we've always, Squonkapalooza is coming up in August, I believe, August 10th?
Is
Second
it?
weekend of August.
It's
Okay.
the first one too, right?
The second one is this year.
Second one. Okay, I couldn't remember if they did it last year or not.
We were speakers at the last one, and I don't know, maybe the second one, we'll see. But no, the Squonk is always
What? Okay.
no. It's my wife's favorite. That is for
that's
sure.
true.
There's a Squonk sitting. There's several Squonks in this room.
There's one right behind you.
Oh, Danny DeSquonko. We actually okay. Oh, I got to get up and show you Danny DeSquonko now.
Oh yeah, I need to see this. I need to see this.
Yeah. We were awarded this
Cryptid
at
Clyde.
from Cryptid Clyde
At
at
Squonkapalooza.
well, it was Squonkapalooza last year. Yeah, the first thing Squonkapalooza, we were gifted Danny DeSquonko,
That's amazing.
a hybrid of Danny DeVito and the Squonk. Here, let's move the old.
It's a giant red.
That is amazing.
Okay.
So he's been in
joined
our
the
studio
interview.
since last year's Squonkapalooza.
So yeah, there you go. You make a joke about Squonk. You think you're funny. Guess what? I just pulled out Danny DeSquonko from the corner of the room.
I'm not trying to be funny. Squonk is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, that's I'm so jealous now of that.
You should have set up. Thank you, Cryptid Clyde. He makes cutouts for all of his conferences and stuff.
Yeah, they're awesome.
We have some friends that have he gives them out at the end of every one of them. So we were lucky enough to get Danny DeSquonko.
Very fortunate.
But no, you want to go first? Your favorite cryptid?
Yeah, this one I'm always juggling.
Every interview has probably been a different question or a different answer because we do so much. Like you said, we produced on publicly about 300 episodes, and on Patreon now.
Oh, okay. I thought we cracked 100 already. Maybe not.
I don't. Patreon exclusives.
Right. Yeah. Shoot. I don't know.
So we've done
A lot.
thousands of hours. It feels like.
Yeah, 'cause it has been.
Yeah.
It feels like it's because it's been that.
So what's your favorite? I'll let you go first.
Well, I like the little guys, the little one-off guys, like Sam the Sundown Clown.
Yeah.
That one's a pretty fun one.
I don't know that one.
Oh,
And he's not a card in MetaZoo as far as I know.
Yeah, I know. I've never heard of that one before.
We can talk about him here in a minute.
maybe
Okay.
I'll just stick with that one then. Maybe that'll be my one today.
Sam's one of our cult classics. He was the second Patreon episode.
I think so. He's one of the first ones we did.
The second real, or the first real Patreon episode, because the first one we ever did was in the backseat of a car.
that was on our phone, recorded on our
our
phone. We thought that would be a good idea.
It was fun. It was goofy, just us yelling.
Hey,
at each other.
I run my entire channel off my phone, so I get it. I get it.
So yeah, no, Sam the Sundown Clown that's a good one. Pretty much any cryptid that has the name Sam is really good. Everybody in the MetaZoo community is much more familiar with Sinkhole Sam.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that was another early one for us.
Shoot, yeah, season
Episode 5.
Or
maybe?
Walking Sam is another big one too.
Yeah. I'm gonna go my favorite currently. I'm split between the organic UFOs as a whole. There's many types.
Mm-hmm.
And the Trinity's Alps giant salamander.
The what?
Now, here's some weird lore for you, getting into some MetaZoo stuff. The fire salamander is a hybrid of lore between some Norwegian fire salamander legends, which me and my wife had successfully bred fire salamanders in the US, and a little bit of the Trinity's Alps giant salamander lore. So most of the world is missing. Oh, so pretty much everywhere in the northern hemisphere, when you have cold water streams near or in mountains, there's a giant salamander species that's present. Everybody in home that you may not know, I was a fishery biologist. I did endangered species surveys. I did ecological surveys, habitat assessment, eDNA, all that. So I'm talking from the heart when I come to this. Is a very passionate subject. The U.S. West Coast is missing their giant salamander. So if you look around the board, the East Coast has what's called the hellbender, which is they get about 3 foot long as max. Asia, depending on where you're at, China has the giant Chinese salamander. There's actually 5 species broke up into that overall arcing. And then Japan has the giant Japanese salamander, which is the largest of them. Gets about 6 foot long and about 150 pounds. About seal or person sized as far as a salamander goes.
It's huge.
So the Trinity's Alps, California and Canada are missing their version though. And people may notice I left out the UK. We were talking about that about a year ago, and they actually just discovered that the UK had its own version that recently went extinct, relatively, last 2,000-3,000 years. Pretty much once they started doing heavier agriculture, the runoff got too much for them and they went extinct. Salamanders are very susceptible to environmental changes.
They're the canaries in the coal mine.
Yeah, they are called habitat indicators. So you look at salamanders and newts as your first level of habitat indicators. When they disappear, that's when you start having problems because they breathe through their skin partially. They take nutrients through their skin. So, we can walk through a room full of pollutants and you wear a face mask or whatever, you're fine. They have their whole body is doing that. So it's much more, they can acquire those pollutants much more fast. But yeah, the Trinity's Alps giant salamander or the organic UFOs, which we have done a lot of work in. That's kind of probably what our big boost episode.
Yeah.
I love it. Come to Let's Talk MetaZoo, but stay for the salamander lore. Like
there you go. But yeah, so I can tell you a little bit about fire salamanders. I'm bad. So fire salamanders are what are you laughing at?
It's just salamanders.
So they're from Europe and Russia and a little bit of Africa, pretty much Mediterranean and North. They were called fire salamanders. They're black salamanders mostly with yellow spots on them. They had bad folklore around them. People used to think they were created by witches, or witches would send them to catch your house on fire. So what would happen is most of the Europe and Russia would build at least 1 or 2 sides of their house into dirt for heating. It was easier, it was insulation. So the salamanders would get in between the walls of the dirt and, the walls of the wood. Fire salamanders are fireproof. What happens is they have a mucus that kind of expands. It looks like wool, and they can walk out of a fire. You can't throw them into a furnace and they'll die. But, for short term, they can get out of a place that's burning. So what would happen in Europe at this time is your house would catch on fire because something you may have done on accident, and your walls would just pour out with salamanders. So they kind of, correlation without causation.
Yeah.
And the salamanders were causing the fire. That's where the actual salamander, like the spirit lore came from as being a fire element. That's kind of weird for people, they think, especially you play like D&D or anything like that, salamanders, the monster, is a fire elemental. When you think of salamanders, the animal, you think of the water. Well, that's where that lore comes from.
Okay, wow. That's kind of cool.
There you go. That's one MetaZoo card broken into a couple parts.
Yeah, that's what I like. All right, okay. So, tell me a little bit about you guys when you were younger. Like, where are you from? What kind of initially got you into cryptids? Is it something you've always been like interested in since you were little, or what?
You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I don't know if it's Jay speaking, by the way. That's Justin. I don't know if we ever said that right off the rip, which ones we were. But I don't know. I always just grew up a weird kid and just
I feel that.
kept always me and my brothers. I had two older brothers and a younger sister growing up, but we never went out, we spent a lot of time just, to ourselves, figuring out, doing things we liked ourselves, and then spending a lot of time outside in the woods, and we spent a lot of time either outdoors or inside playing video games was like our things growing up. So it just kind of became, I've always just been open-minded to the fact that like you hear Bigfoot stories or things like that. And I just always believed, oh yeah, something like that is real. I just always believed it was real. But I didn't really get into this stuff until we started doing this podcast. I never
say that story for the next question.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was always fascinated with lake monsters. I didn't believe in anything like Bigfoot or anything. I'm not going to go into it in any detail tonight because it would take forever. But I had a Bigfoot encounter when I was 16. And I still probably didn't.
All right, time out. At some point, you are going to have to give a Cliff Notes story of that then.
That's fine.
You can't just say that and be like, oh, we're going to put that to the side.
We'll save it for the end, everybody.
Okay.
Make your listeners and viewers watch all the way through.
You can't throw that out there and be like, but we're going to put a pin in that up here.
It was why I say that. It was about 2 years worth of small encounters that led up to one visualization. So it's just a lot of stuff happened, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I only seen Bigfoot one time, and I still didn't believe in Bigfoot probably 3 or 4 years after that. Because I was going to school to be a biologist. I was getting ready to do that, and biologists don't believe in Bigfoot. And now we know that's wrong. A lot of biologists do believe in Bigfoot. Bigfoot makes sense. We actually talk. We go to conferences as speakers, and that's one of our big speaking points is breaking down Bigfoot and explaining why it makes biological sense, not the against. I work with endangered species. I found animals that were extirpated, which means locally extinct, in areas the government said they didn't exist, right next to big, Amazon warehouses going up and all kinds of stuff. We found endangered species right there. But yeah. So for me, I was always fascinated with lake monsters, river monsters, ocean monsters. Because the ocean is, anything could be in there. I don't care. I'm a big person that says Megalodon's extinct, but not 100%. Sure, could there be hiding out there? I think there are truly giant sharks out there, just not Megalodon, the species.
Were you a big Sequest fan?
Yeah.
My man. Loved that show. Sorry, continue.
So that's where kind of my background came from, is just that love of sea monsters. And then having the Bigfoot encounter opened me up to a lot of the other ones. And now I believe much more cryptids are real, or at least have some nugget of truth to them than just made up.
Right.
There's the Florida. Well, okay. The Florida penis monster.
There you go. Yeah.
Is not real, but that is a cryptid that was seen in 2006.
Adovo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to change it because if I say the first part, it's one word. It's one word.
It just comes out of your mouth. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of. Did you want to talk about how we kind of got this thing rolling?
Sure. Yeah. How we got the podcast started.
Yeah.
So we, I guess, started this thing back when Justin was putting together our Hardin County Bigfoot Society group, which was going to be our, people of like-mindedness that believe in Bigfoot and want to gather once a month and talk about it. Okay. And so that was the idea for our group because I'm a bartender at the local bowling alley here in town. And that's where me and Justin really met, I would say.
Well, talk about that story that night.
That night?
Yeah.
I mean, was it a Tuesday or?
It probably was.
I don't know.
I came up to, like Jay said, his family owns a bowling alley, but he was the bartender that night or whatever. I am absolutely hammered. I'm a little bit of a drinker, everybody.
If you can't tell,
and
as you're drinking,
we always knew each other.
Yeah,
but never were close.
Which our families go back.
Yeah, well, our moms are really close friends,
and our
grandpas
grandpas are really close friends.
So, but we just me and Jay have a little bit of an age gap, so we never got to hang out in high school and stuff like that. Because basically, you were getting out of high school the second I moved in,
Yeah,
and vice versa. Like every time it was a step up, we never really got that.
never
kinda
our
connection.
paths never crossed.
So I come up to him really kind of drunk and aggressive, and I go, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?" And he's like, "Thanks for a second." Well, yeah. Okay, that's how that
Yeah.
kind of. Now you can continue with the Bigfoot Society.
Right.
Sorry, I had to.
So basically, that's how that started. It just started with a simple question: do you believe in Bigfoot? And yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. Like, I didn't even like think to where I was like, well, how should I answer this? Is he gonna think I'm weird? Especially out there at the bowling, I don't care. I'll do. I don't care. I just So
Well, you've probably met some really weird people at the bowling alley too, though.
We're a little town. Everybody's
Yeah.
weird.
Oh yeah, everybody's weird, and I'm one of them too. So it all works out. That's actually the best part about the small town
Yeah. So,
life and like that place in general. It's a nice local meeting point for all the
just to say how nice this little town is.
yeah.
Neighbor didn't believe in Bigfoot at all. Has no interest in Bigfoot. I got 2 Bigfoot cutouts. They brought me a big Bigfoot air freshener because they're just like, we've seen this and thought you would like it.
Right.
Just and then the stickers, some of the further distant neighbors I brought because they see a Bigfoot sticker at like a campground or something.
Right. Well, no, it's the same thing. This Christmas, lady at the bowling alley, she's bowls out there every week, brought me a Bigfoot can opener or bottle opener. She's like,
awesome.
I seen this and I just thought of you. I had to get it, and so I got it, and here it is.
So we formed the Hardin County Bigfoot Society.
Oh yeah.
And due to scheduling, it ends up just me, Jay, and Emily. Emily, for everybody at home, is my wife. And I was putting together these big packets of information, like a lot of research.
Things we're going to talk about this month. Things we're going to talk about next month. Things you can look up, like information to look up on like local sightings. Things in the news that month.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of stuff. It was a pack. He'd bring in his paper every month. We do this. Probably did it for about 4 months, maybe.
Yeah.
4 or 5, or maybe longer.
It was probably longer than that.
We probably had our max.
Started in the spring, ended in the right at the beginning of winter.
Well, we had our Christmas party too. Remember?
Oh, so it ended after winter.
Yeah.
So probably almost a year.
Almost a year, yeah. So it had a pretty good run. But I think the maximum amount of members we had show up was probably the Christmas party.
Oh, so that, it was probably 8 people.
You think it was even that
bowler
much?
Friends came the one meeting, and then JD came.
I don't remember who that was. Who?
The ones that have the little dog in the purse they bring out bowling.
Oh, Tim and Sherry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
So
I forgot.
they did come out for one.
Yep.
But so it just ended up being just me and Jay doing these things. So I just like,
yeah, literally just us.
Let's buy. I'm like, I still love doing it, talking with Jay about the stuff because it's the only person I had really to,
I was his only outlet.
So I was like, I'll buy on Amazon. There was like a $60 podcasting kit.
Yeah.
Which was rough because we didn't record on it. We realized for the first 4 months, it was actually just recording on the iPad's speaker. It wasn't actually Bluetoothing.
Oh no!
So we bought this thing that wasn't doing anything.
And then we bought 2 other mics that you broke.
Didn't work.
That you broke immediately.
No, yeah, I didn't know what phantom power meant.
Oh,
if everybody thinks you got to be like you mentioned off air. We just hit our 1,000,000th download, and we've been the number one.
Huge, by the way. That's huge, by the way. Don't diminish that at all. 1,000,000th download. That's crazy number.
We're the number one nature podcast like 5 or 6 times last year. Fighting with, we love the podcast, but like battling it out with blurry creatures for the number one spot in the nature category in the U.S. So we've come a really long way. But just to think of that, I killed 2 very expensive microphones. Because I didn't know what phantom power meant. For everybody at home, phantom power means don't run power to the microphone. It doesn't need power. And I didn't know what the buttons did. So I'm like, okay, well, I plugged in a new microphone, run power to it. The microphone didn't work. Bought another one. Microphone didn't work. And then somebody, I don't even know who told me that. Probably Eric from Uncomfortable Podcast. So I was like, yeah, I got these phantom power mics. I'm like, what's that mean? And he's like, they don't need power.
Because I got mine and they suck. They don't even work.
Like, oh, okay. recording in the living room. How many trucks did you hear that whole first 2 seasons?
Probably a lot. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
So we've come a long way.
Yes. And yeah, it's given us the amazing gift to meet people like you, and and it's been a humongous blessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how we got onto that. How we got the podcast going. That's pretty much how we got the podcast going.
Yeah. Yeah. We got that Amazon podcast kit and away we went.
So I'm assuming that over the course of how long have you guys been doing this? Like 4 years now?
Yeah,
we started officially November 2021.
Was it
okay?
Yes.
21, not 20?
Yep, 21. Because that sign up there should say 22, and that was the year after.
Right, because it was the spring.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is in the last 3 years, the hardest thing, honestly, has just been audio equipment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that and editing.
And editing.
Still don't do any of that. We've had listeners. Here's how bad everybody at home, if you ever want to start a podcast, just do it. I have no idea how to edit. We actually had a listener walk us through how to edit the way I'm editing now. Hi, Ben. Don't know if you're listening to this, but BP in the Patreon group, Benjamin.
Okay.
He's like, yeah, you just hit these buttons. I'm like, thank you. No, yeah, editing and the equipment, because the equipment's not that big a deal. Like, we use the lingo terms and stuff like that, but starting out, because it's scary, because it's unless you come from the audio industry some way, shape, or form, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's a new language, yeah.
But now it's just like, buy everything Rode. There you go. There's another freebie for everybody. I like Rode, and if you buy everything Rode, it all works together.
Simple enough.
So did you always know that you wanted to do like a cryptid focused podcast when you first started it, or was it kind of just you guys just still talking about the Bigfoot Society you created?
No, I think we knew pretty fast that we wanted to branch out once we did our first episode on Bigfoot, then immediately flipped to the Frogman.
Right, but
really?
But we did have a different view for the podcast. We wanted to use those episodes as fillers to go out and do our own research.
Right.
On Bigfoot specifically. And that just didn't work. It just, nothing ever seemed to pan out. And the episodes that got popular much more faster were those episodes we researched and had fun talking about and did that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that came from.
And we were going to stick mostly to like the Midwest, like where we're from. But then quickly
it blew up way past that.
Just branched out to everywhere, the whole world.
So the joke is we'll cover any topic as long as they have corn. So everybody at home that may not know, there's no place on the planet where humans have been that corn hasn't been. So it's in Antarctica right now.
Oh, well, I guess that's true. We brought corn to Antarctica, even if we're in
It's
Antarctica.
like rats and cockroaches. Corn's just right there following humans right along.
I never thought of it like that. That's true. Would you say that it's do you get bigger hits on like well-known cryptids or more obscure ones?
That's good.
Jay has no idea because I do all the numbers. It's nothing against it.
No, I really don't.
I run all the numbers and that kind of stuff. So I'll tell you what our biggest episodes were the last time I looked. It's mostly like, it's super weird of the known ones that hit big, because we do a lot of Bigfoot stuff. We try to do about once every 8 to 10 episodes a Bigfoot thing.
Right.
Because we don't, there's so much Bigfoot stuff out there. And I love Bigfoot, don't get me wrong.
And it's still important.
It's still highly important, but there's so much other stuff. I don't want to just keep doing Bigfoot stuff.
Right.
But we did the Denver airport. Is a super huge episode for us, 1 and 2.
Right, which has nothing to do with really cryptids at all.
No, but with the paranormal and stuff like that.
Yeah, it falls under the umbrella.
I mean, kind of. I mean, if you have what's the name of the horse right outside of the airport?
Lucifer.
Yeah, Lucifer. I mean, Lucifer is technically people consider it a cryptid. I mean, you have all of the. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff with the Denver airport. Like that's pretty awesome. You made it into a 2-part episode too.
Minimum, and we have to do a part 3 here in season 5 coming up.
Oh no,
because they redid all the art.
We got to go back.
They redid all the art.
Oh no.
Now there's anybody that hasn't really looked highly into the Denver airport stuff. Not from so I'm not a big conspiracy guy. So I do most of the research for the show and I present it to Jay, and then I let Jay. What?
That's a lie. You don't do most, you do all.
But and then I presented today. He has a lot of the I'm trying to be nice.
Okay.
He has a lot of opposing views on some issues. So for that one, I didn't even look up I didn't do hardly any of the conspiracy stuff, and it was still awful.
Yeah. There's a lot.
But then the next popular one we did was the Lost Hyenas in North America. And we actually our documentary on that just came out on YouTube because that blew up. We did one episode on it because a man from Lexington, Kentucky got a hold of us. He's like, hey guys, I had this weird encounter when I was a kid. I don't know if you ever heard anything about it. I'm like, don't worry. We'll do an episode on it.
Yeah.
And we'll see. And then it blew up to people are seeing hyenas constantly in North America, the whole continent.
Oh, wow.
Just the YouTube documentary, once it came out, a bunch more listeners were like, oh, here's our hyena, encounters. A couple guys put it in the comments, like just when they seen him. And a hyena is a very distinct animal. It's not like a bear or Bigfoot where they have, shapes that maybe can be misconstrued and stuff. The slope in the back, the way they walk, and there's keys we left out that we can use to kind of tell whether somebody's actually seen a hyena in the wild or not, with some certain parts of their gait and stuff like that, because they walk a really, really unique way.
Everybody's seen Lion King, so everybody knows what a hyena looks like.
Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg's out there running around. Right, that was the main hyena, right?
I think she was.
Oh,
don't look at me like I'm crazy.
No, I'm trying to think.
That was a hyena that ran everything.
Honestly, don't remember.
I got you, Justin. I got you.
I only like hearing Ghost.
And then our fourth most popular episode ever was Monsters in the Marsh.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is on shoebill storks being seen in North America. And I won't spoil that because that's one of my personal favorite episodes we've ever done. Because a really close listener, she actually did a gigantic
picture
mural
of
a shoebill stork for us for doing the episode for her. Yeah. She's seen one in, that wasn't Topsail, was it the Sandal Islands?
Sounds right. Sandal Islands sounds right.
And she's just like, hey, I seen a shoebill stork. Anybody that hasn't looked up a picture of shoebill, I highly suggest you do. And we did an episode on it, and they've been seen a lot in the US. Mm-hmm. And then I don't like to spoil the endings because I always like to have a nugget for the endings of those episodes. But we kind of find out why they may be here in the US and their natural behaviors, why they probably aren't being seen as commonly as if they are out there. They're extremely shy animals. Even the few places in Africa they still exist. They're still hard to find, even for being a bird that can stare you in the eyes.
At eye level.
At eye level.
Yeah.
They're that tall?
They're big.
I mean, they're about like 4, what do you think, 4 feet, 4.5 feet?
No, they get up to 6.
6 up to 6?
Okay.
They're
one of the big
storks.
Wow, I bet. They'd have to be.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Like wood storks get like 6 feet tall too.
Okay.
When they're up, like.
Right, yeah.
When they want to be that tall.
Right. Yeah, so am I when I want to be.
You're 4 foot tall.
Oh, well.
Like, that's
that brings me to my next question, which is what is your favorite episode that you guys have ever actually made?
Ooh. I have 2, but
you have 2, then you go first.
Okay. Well, like I said, Monsters in the Marsh is just one to me is a perfect example of a cryptid, right? The true word cryptid, which I think a lot of people in our community have kind of forgotten where the word originates from.
I was going to say, take a time out real quick and explain what the true definition of cryptid is.
So the true definition of cryptid is an undiscovered or unextinct species of animal. So I'll break that down into 3 parts. There's a third part, which is misplaced animals. First part is just an animal that hasn't been discovered yet. So my example for that is the okapi or the okapi, which is the giraffe relative. Have you ever seen a picture of them?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the people living in the Congo region they literally had this valley called the Valley of Giraffes in the rainforest. And all these white people were like, there's no giraffes in the rainforest. Like they can't exist. Like they can't walk through the rainforest. And then they found the okapis are extremely secretive. Even though they're humongous moose-sized animals, they're extremely secretive and quiet. So the okapi would be the example of an undiscovered species by science. The next one is an unextinct species. So my example for that is what's on the cryptozoology seal at the National Museum is a coelacanth. So they went extinct 65 million years ago. We knew them by science, right? And then they get caught off the coast of Madagascar. The locals all knew they were there. But, the first white person from the British Museum sees one and is like, oh, there's a 65 million year gap in the fossil record. So that's that one. Mammoths would be another example. Mammoths are still being seen. in Russia and the Yukon. We did an episode on that. That's another good episode we did. But yeah, so mammoth. The last one is a misplaced animal. So this definition is kangaroos in Ohio, for example. Ohio has tons and tons of kangaroo sightings. You know what a kangaroo is?
Mm-hmm.
You know they're not in Ohio. So that's that last definition, the true definition of cryptid.
So the hyenas, then, in essence,
yeah, the hyena would be another great example.
Okay.
Yep.
You know what a hyena is. Everybody's seen one on TV, like you know, the Lion King. You know what a hyena is, but you know they're not in Kentucky, or not supposed to be running around in Kentucky,
Right.
Like in Michigan right now, there's the flock of emus that's on the loose that have survived several winters up there. And so if you don't know they're loose and you see one just walking through the woods, that's a cryptid. Because even if you don't know what it is, it looks like a dinosaur, right? But even if you knew it's an emu, you're like, what? You're seeing an emu walk by. Now we've kind of morphed it on to like people count like like Sam the Sundown Clown as a cryptid. They count Injured Cold as a cryptid.
I was going to say, it seems like it more encompassing on mythical creatures and such.
Yeah.
Now.
That's kind of like...
Which I'll be like, that's interesting, actually, when you take it, like you said, take it to the base definition of it. And it is literally undiscovered animals that basically have come back from extinction, and or what was the third one? Oh, animals that are in places where they shouldn't be. So that's interesting.
So that's just... But like words evolve over time, you know. So the modern word, I think a lot of researchers, the older group of researchers, which I think, in my personal opinion, I more fall into with the verbiage versus the now verbiage. You know, everything's a cryptid, which is one way of looking at it. Just means paranormal or supernatural or undiscovered. It's kind of like the modern verbiage for the word cryptid. You know, we have everything from, like I said, Injured Cold's about the best example because he's listed as a cryptid.
Right, yeah.
And it's just not to me. You know, it's definitely a paranormal entity. I do believe Injured Cold existed. I do believe all this stuff. It's just not a cryptid. It's a different thing.
So you wouldn't consider aliens cryptids?
Correct.
Okay. Because, I mean, that's the common theory is that Injured Cold was an alien of some sort or whatever. So that would make sense why you wouldn't associate him with a cryptid then.
Yeah. Definitely paranormal or supernatural, whatever other verbiage you want to use. But what was I saying before we got on the cryptid rate? It was favorite episodes.
Yeah, our favorites.
So, first one.
So hold on, just time out before you start. Just to show a distinction, you would say that Injured Cold is not a cryptid, but Mothman is.
Yes.
Okay.
And even though we believe Mothman may be interdimensional, it still was very animalistic.
Yes. Okay.
That's kind of where I would draw the line is it was acting much more like an animal than Injured was like a guy.
Well, now to take this a step further, is that more because of it being humanoid versus it being more animalistic? Because if that's the thought process, then technically Bigfoot, exactly, Bigfoot would be more humanoid than he would animalistic. Do what?
More of the actions. The communication stuff, like Injured went into buildings. Injured
that's true. He made like phone call. Yeah.
You know, he used technology. You know, and some people say they have those big encounters. I will never discount anybody's encounter, just for what I witnessed and stuff like that. Much more animalistic. We're animals, though. You know, it's just it's an imaginary line I'm drawing. It doesn't matter. Anybody can draw the line any other way they want.
This is just how you're drawing it.
So monsters.
No, I love your idea and your definition of it though. That's why I was trying to like single in on it. That's pretty cool.
So Monsters in the Marsh, and then any of the organic UFO episodes we've done.
Yeah.
Which not to toot our own, everybody's doing it now, which I'm super excited for. But we kind of got that ball rolling. As far as the modern take on it, there's people who were talking about in the 60s and 70s and stuff like that. But this next big wave, because we went on Tony's show, The Confessionals, and kind of pushed it, and then everybody else started, which is awesome. But we got out there before that movie Nope's even trailer dropped, which we were super excited for because, false, or what is it? Disclosure.
Soft disclosure. Yeah.
So any of our organic UFO episodes on, which we've probably done 20 hours on now or so, publicly and privately combined.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so what's your favorite episode?
Well, I was going to do the organic UFO one.
You can still do it. We got the man around the table.
That's true. I don't know. Some of our interview. Oh, okay. Here, my favorite one.
I know who you're going with.
Is our interview. We did a 2-part series interviews with Daryl Sims, the alien hunter.
Oh, cool.
That guy is a. I don't know. I don't even know how to what words to
Is there an
describe him as.
Alien Hunter MetaZoo card?
No,
I think he's worthy.
not that
can't
I can
believe
think
not
of.
one. The way he dresses, the way he looks, and what he's done.
He's literally like a TV show, a walking TV show.
In a good way.
In a good way. In a good way, yes. Like
he's a close friend of ours now.
Yeah. Oh, he's awesome. But that guy is full of so much information, and he can just rattle it off like he's got an encyclopedia right in front of his face. Yeah.
So he's the guy that did all the alien implant removals
around the world.
And he's got the stuff. And I'll tell you, I don't know how much. I have very personalized beliefs when it comes to what we call extraterrestrials or aliens.
Right, me too.
But the material he has, and I noticed this before, he said it at the conference, it was a big chunk of UFO slag. I'm not saying it's from Shag Harbor or nothing like that, but he had UFO slag. And I'm holding it there, and I'm purposely trying to crush it in my hand. What I'm doing is I'm trying to warm it up. And it would not warm up. And I'm holding it longer than a lot of other people were holding it and stuff like that because I wanted to see if it would warm up. And I touched it to my face after, and it was still cold. I passed it on and stuff. And then later in his presentation, he said, yeah, this metal refuses the heat. We've taken it to burners and stuff like that, and it won't heat. And there's a type of, I forget the word now. I'm not a chemist or nothing like that. We have materials on Earth that in super labs that have done this. Where it's not diffuse heat. They do a different process that gets rid of heat so fast that it doesn't warm up until you get, sun temperatures or something like that, Until you hit such high levels of temperature, it doesn't matter. But that was one thing. And that's before we really, really knew him personally.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one thing that led me, because he never says what aliens are. He never says anything. Like, he lets you decide all that stuff, which is another thing I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
That nobody knows nothing, right? I have my own thoughts about all this stuff, but it doesn't matter. Till there's a Bigfoot on a slab or a UFO parked in the front yard, it really doesn't matter. And he's pretty open with stuff. Like, here's my information. Here's what data I've collected. Here you go.
Yeah, he'll show you everything. And whether you believe him or not, or however you fall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody out there in the world has as much information on that alien topic than Daryl Sims does.
I'll agree.
Yeah, I just don't think there's anybody out there.
And he's nice.
He's pretty funny.
Yeah, I won't name names, but I've heard very negative things about some of the other big alien people. As far as we've had some negative experiences with some.
Oh yeah, we have. Yeah.
Travis Walton was as nice as could be. Everybody at home, just so everybody knows. Travis Walton is a very sweet man.
Okay. I have no idea who that is.
Fire in the Sky, the famous abduction,
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta meet him personally and stuff like that. He's very nice.
Oh, pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
There was something you said when you were actually talking about extraterrestrials, and it made me think, and I don't know, I can't remember what the top or how it ties into what you were just talking about, but I had the thought where I've always thought it was interesting to where, like, ETs could be anything from physical entities to extra-dimensional to extraplanar to there's so many. It isn't one. I maybe it was the way you were saying he let you kind of draw your own conclusions, because there isn't one set way of defining aliens to where it fits across the board. Like, some of them seem like they're physical, some of them seem like they're literally traveling through a different dimension, like a higher dimension, or just what have you. So that's kind of cool, especially if he has the knowledge to be able to, when you come to a conclusion, be able to back it up in some way.
He's done. I mean, literally, if anybody gets a chance to go to one of his talks,
it's so worth it. So worth it.
He doesn't charge hardly anything for anything.
Yeah.
I know he does a lot of volunteer stuff, a lot of pro bono stuff for charities and stuff like that. He's just, in my opinion, after knowing him, he's a very nice man.
Yeah, I agree.
With tons of information. But he did the Skinwalker Ranch stuff. He did the Stardust Ranch stuff. Like, he was there with Stardust and Skinwalker. Like, he did all these really famous. He's pulled implants out of people. He had I won't ruin all of his stuff, but he had the one crawling through a cow, the implant.
Yeah.
That was actually a metal implant that was moving through a deceased cow.
What?
Everybody got to find Daryl Sims for that. The full story for that.
Okay.
Good.
With a dog that was half, what was it, carbonized?
Yeah, it was half carbonized, half alive, and then the other half
Well, it
was
was
alive.
dead. It was dead.
Well, he said no. The dog was still alive. It died, yes, but it was
Yes.
still alive when they found it.
Like it was like ever since the nuclear experiments when the Flash like
Mhm.
getting halfway in shadow and halfway not.
Yeah,
Mm.
crazy stories. That was in like South America,
Mexico.
Mexico.
It was right over the border of Texas.
Okay,
He drove to it.
that's crazy.
But yeah, with aliens, personally, I believe that like you stated, it's an umbrella. It's one of these umbrella terms. The least one I believe out of all of them, from being interdimensional demons, from being forest spirits, a fae, the least ones I believe is that they're actual true definition aliens from another planet.
Really?
Here's why. It's the one that makes the least sense in my mind from being a biologist. The biology on a different planet, even let's say it's 99% matches Earth. It's called biospheres. So we have a biosphere. Everything on our, whether it's fungus, virus, bacteria, whatever, all is in the same biosphere. It's the tree of life, right? It's just the fancy
kingdom.
Yeah. It all does trace back. We have similar parts. Even if you go way, way back to fungus and plants and us, we all have very similar DNA, similar parts. Somewhere else, even if it had almost 99.9% conditions similar, would be so alien. It would not look anything like Earth life. It would be so foreign. They may be silicon based or, a different element based system that they wouldn't look anything. They'd be horrifying to look at or very fascinating to look at. So 99% of these aliens, the grays are very humanoid, right? They are different, but eyes, nose, mouth, fingers, like that to me, there's coversion evolution. That's a whole extreme different jump for them to be so uniformly humanish. And even you get more of the Nordics. They can kind of look like people, right? They kind of look a little different, but and then the Men in Black, those all to me more scream interdimensional stuff than actual aliens. The only ones that really make me think about true extraterrestrials, I don't know if we've ever been visited by, as far as another planet extraterrestrial, not interdimensional, is like there's a couple encounters, these one-off encounters with like crab people, literally hyper intelligent crabs, and then giant plants, like sentient moving plants, and then big gelatinous blobs. So to me, those as a biologist makes much more sense that they evolved in a whole separate ecosystem, a whole separate biosphere. Their genetic makeup is completely different than ours. So we'd look. The old Star Trek did a joke one time where they came onto an abandoned ship and they're like, well, the occupants are humanoid. And they're like, well, how do you know? He's like, well, because we came down a ladder. You have to have that kind of body shape to, effectively use a ladder.
Yeah.
How we call them. So I could believe about everything except an actual extraterrestrial from another planet. Space is so big. The vacuum, the amount of actual time, even if you're moving, 80 times the speed of light, 90 times the speed of light, a billion times the speed of light, it's still so vast.
Yeah. Well, it would be actually kind of interesting, in my opinion, if we come to find out that not like human itself, but like the humanoid shape would be the thing that would allow a civilization to go from type 0 to 1, 2, 3. So like, it would be interesting if to where like if we ever did find actual alien life and they were humanoid, if we could find some sort of connection of like why did they develop that way with like, and I mean they could have like 4 arms, not just a 2, but I'm saying like the basic shape that we have.
If we look at it right now.
But you're right though when you actually talk about like silicon-based life or like a hydrogen-based life or something like that. Like it would be a completely different shape. And even if it was humanoid, it would still be completely different than anything we could imagine because, I mean, again, a lot of our development was based off of the atmosphere, like from millions of years in this atmosphere. So I don't know. That's an interesting take though. It makes sense exactly, especially coming from an actual biological standpoint. Like it makes sense.
What do you think? What do you think aliens are?
Well, I also am in the same boat with him about them not being from other planets and stuff like that, but for very different reasons. Because I just think we've been lied to a lot
Oh,
through our
the
through
government. The government's
through our
evil, too.
government, through our schooling, through our institution systems, meant to dumb society down. But so like when they teach us all about space is all this stuff that we were growing up learning about space and school and stuff.
He thinks the Earth is flat.
I don't think
space isn't real.
I don't think space is what they. I think space is real. I don't think it is what they tell us it is, and I don't think the Earth is round, floating around in space at 1 billion miles per hour, rotating at the speed of whatever around a sun. I just don't believe in all that stuff. But I view Earth more as a realm than a planet and the emptiness of space, but more just a realm of where we exist, I guess.
I gotta say real fast, I pick on you a lot about it.
Yeah.
He's not a flat earther. I just pick on him. We hosted the Confessionals podcast, which is a super huge podcast that we're really close friends with. He went on vacation, so we did one of his episodes for him. And I said I didn't believe in flat earth. And it was, I didn't say it was stupid, but I kind of said it was stupid. The people were stupid. I don't know if you ever watched any of the flat earth videos.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll be honest. When the Flat Earth documentary came out on Netflix like 2 years ago, it was amazing. Literally, it is worth watching just for the last 5 minutes, because the last 5 minutes they literally disproved the entirety of the movie.
The light, yeah,
like it's the way that it was put together was amazing.
Like
and
then they bought that $80,000 geo tracker. They put
from a plane. Yeah,
or like it would have to move 15 degrees an hour for the Earth to be rotating, and they're like they put it in all this stuff and they pull it out and it's been rotating 15 degrees an hour.
And that's literally the last shot of the documentary. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like 14,999.5, and they're like, it's not 15.
Roll credits.
I don't know. That's where I was saying, no theory. I don't know, right? I've never been to space. I don't know. Right. I have my beliefs.
Same thing. I don't know.
I hate the community.
Yeah.
As a whole, as far as the big speakers and stuff like that, because it's just like, it's stupid. The communities, the thought processes, and the fights they pick are stupid. So we did that show, and I'm the one that got yelled at because I picked on you about it.
So they
all
had my
the
back.
comments were like, that biologist doesn't even think flat Earth could be possible. Idiot. That's not exactly what I said.
Right. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I heard actually a really good joke this past week that kind of goes along with everything we're talking about right now. And it goes about how like I'm actually really starting to believe that the moon landing was faked and was shot by Stanley Kubrick. The problem is that Stanley always likes to shoot on location.
Yeah.
The moon landing. The moon landing.
It wasn't real. There.
I personally believe we probably didn't do it the first time. I do think we went up there, and I've shared why before. But because they have the reflector panels up there, and I've been to a telescope that you can actually shoot the laser back and get the reflector panel bounce.
Mm-hmm.
But they put that on much later.
Yeah, that's just because it's bouncing off the dome back into here.
There you go.
Laser.
Well, I think we actually did go up there, but there was a reason we haven't gone back. And it could be the radiation belt, really, honestly, because there is the radiation belt that surrounds Earth. But there is a reason why. And it's not just the U.S. It's like everyone. No one's gone back, really, since the 60s.
You ever heard of moon pigeons?
No.
Okay. Now, so the second they landed, there's a lot of crazy stuff with the moon. They have moon pigeons, is what they call them. They look like birds that are flying way fast overhead. Somebody walking around the moon and stuff like that. And what NASA kind of put out, and nobody in here, I'm sure, everybody has opinions about NASA. Never a straight answer is kind of what I go with. That's what NASA stands for. They said it was low orbiting rocks. They're like 10 feet in the air. You're telling me it makes it a whole... The moon is huge, guys.
Well, to be fair, yes. You can actually have something on the moon in low Earth or a low orbit.
Yeah, there's a difference between 10 foot and 2,000 foot.
Well, it just depends. If you were able to, if it was able to be thrown with enough thrust, though.
It's going to hit something because it's not flat. It's not smooth.
Okay, fair. I see what you're saying. It would hit like a mountain or something as it was
some
going.
kind of crack or something like that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, is there's debris blocking it from going a full rotation.
Okay, that makes sense.
But they're having these things and they're whizzing by, and they were a problem leaving, according to some of the NASA data, because they were like they didn't account for them, that these bowling ball sized objects are flying at super speeds, and they start calling them moon pigeons because they look like a bird flying by, but they're like so they were trying to calculate when to leave, and they're just like, well, just gun it.
Just go.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to calculate. We don't know these things exist.
That's how you know it wasn't real.
And then dragons have been seen on the moon.
Get out! What?
Yeah, several times dragons have been witnessed on the moon.
Like as when people were there, or through telescopes?
No. People looking at telescopes and seeing dragons flying by.
Okay.
At least what they can say, close, resembling a dragon. Now, not the classical, but like the silhouette of a dragon flying on the surface.
So are we talking more kind of like similar, like Japanese dragons?
No, European. The big wings, big, long tail on the head.
Not like Mushu from Mulan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which I think would be more scary.
That would be frightening.
It'd be annoying.
Well, if he's huge, you're seeing him from the Earth.
Oh, I guess so. As long as he didn't talk as much as Mushu.
No, so
if you could see him from Earth, and you imagine the size that Mushu would actually be on the moon, and
I think we faked the first one, and then I think later we went back. I think we would just fake the first one to beat the Russians.
It's all fake.
Or for the American propaganda, like the public.
Right.
Like, look, we're the best.
Right. Yeah. There's that. Yeah. Fake.
And then the dragon scared everybody off. Neil opened the shuttle, and I seen a moon pigeon getting eaten by a space dragon. Like, you know what?
So Neil was the first one on the moon, right?
No.
Who was?
The other guy, but he gets credited.
Huh?
I can't remember.
So who put the camera?
Buzz? You talking about Buzz Aldrin?
No, it was one of the guys that doesn't get remembered.
I thought Neil was the first
one.
one.
Neil
says the line.
That's what everybody thinks, but I can't remember. One of the astronauts, because he hated it, because he got out first and set everything up.
So he was the one that set the camera up. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, I was actually the first man on the moon. And everybody's like, no, it was X.
It's Neil.
And he's like, no, I was.
That's one small step for man.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm also drinking.
Just saying it's gonna get raunchy. So what would you say is the hardest episode you guys have put together?
Oh gosh.
Ooh, that's a you question for sure. Oh no, I got one.
Go ahead.
My season 1 giant, my giant
the
obsession.
Only episode you ever researched.
Ooh, or that one, or the collab we did with the Sumo Kaboom ladies. That was good, but I just didn't research it.
So one of Jay's favorite podcasts is Sumo Kaboom. Everybody check out Sumo Kaboom. It's a sumo podcast these two ladies put on. They're lovely ladies. I don't care for sumo. Don't know nothing about it. Jay's a super big sumo fan. He's like, hey, this is my favorite podcast. I want to do a collab with them. Like, I'd love to. Don't know nothing about them. Don't know nothing about but if they're your favorite, I'd love to do it. Does zero research for any of it. And I'm sitting here trying to pick up the pieces during these, recordings.
Oh, it's great.
They were good. They were fun. I enjoyed it. I was the one that was stressed out about it because I'm like, well, Jay, what about this? And you're like,
and you just looked at me and smiled, like didn't say nothing.
Note to self: don't ever put Jay in charge.
That was figured out very long ago.
Yeah, we found that out very early, season 1.
Actually, so we're live right now. Our season finale comes out Wednesday.
Okay.
So for all your listeners and stuff like that, our season 4 finale going into season 5. So for our podcast, we do these great big huge extravaganza finales where there are multiple parts and there are hundreds of hours of research and all this stuff. They take me, sometimes months. This one was 200-page of script. The cliff notes to go through it was like 200 and I think 11 pages. The biggest one we've ever done. The TV show that is the same name as the area ruined the research for me. It made it so much more difficult because the first 10 pages of Google results, are just the show.
Yeah, TV show.
So that was probably the Well, should I share it with everybody?
You
Or
can
not?
write, yeah, you can, yeah.
It's the Uinta Basin, which is where Skinwalker Ranch is located. Is our season finale.
Ooh. You can
Um,
find all of the ways to connect with them too in the description. I put a link to your actual website and to your Instagram page. So definitely go and give them a follow because they always upload whenever they actually, or they always post whenever they upload new stuff. So
Awesome.
definitely check out their stuff. It's all in the description down below.
The season finale comes out this Wednesday, which is it. We filmed it pretty much in 2 goes because it was 10 hours,
It was a lot.
10 or 12 hours for a season finale, something like that. I don't know, something stupid. That was the hardest research, and it's because the show Skinwalker Ranch ruined the research. Because even if you type in Uinta Basin and something else, the first results are Skinwalker Ranch, the TV show. So that was probably the worst researching one. It took me, I don't know, 5-6 weeks from start to finish. I really don't start nailing down a lot of stuff until the last 2 weeks before, so it's still in my head. But I start pulling links and stuff like that, weeks and weeks in advance. So when I get to it, I can start, getting the information a lot easier. That was probably the worst one I've ever researched. It about killed me.
Well, you got to do all the research because you can't leave it up to Jay.
No,
No.
you can't.
The Giants episode was horrible.
Yeah, that one. Was it?
Yeah.
No, everyone liked it. I saw the numbers.
You saw the numbers.
Yep, I crunched them too.
I crunched them.
Hey, everybody likes drama, Jay. Everybody likes drama.
The Hodak was our worst episode ever.
Oh, that probably is our worst episode. Yeah,
It's still everybody's favorite.
Why?
Yeah.
We drank for probably 7 hours hardcore before we did it.
got a
Oh,
cornhole
God.
tournament.
We had a cornhole tournament. We're like, we'll do an episode after this cornhole tournament. I think I had.
We thought it was a good idea to record.
was
Like,
not.
we're gonna record an episode. And we're gonna be drunk, and it's gonna be awesome. This is gonna be good.
I had.
No.
No, it's awful.
I probably had 20 beers out at the cornhole tournament, 3 shots of liquor, and then I kept drinking when we got to the house.
It was bad. It was weird.
Those Michelobs straight, and then liquor.
Yeah, and it was just weird how the episode just didn't come out good.
But everybody loved it.
I can tell y'all are from the Midwest. I love it.
Everybody at home, we're from where it's cold, and all you can do is drink. That cornhole tournament was indoors.
Oh, fair. That's
Yeah.
great.
Indoor cornhole tournament.
Next question.
All right. So tell me the Sam story.
Okay. All right.
What?
Sam the Sundown Clown. He wants the story.
Yeah, you gotta give me the rundown on Sam the Rundown Clown.
Sundown Clown.
Sundown Clown.
Sundown is an island in England, UK.
And it's spelled SANDOWN, right?
Sand.
Like
Down.
Sandown, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's pronounced sundown.
Yeah, it's the most confusing thing for everybody if you try to look it up.
Because it's in Europe and they're they're weird,
So what are you laughing at me?
It's called all Europeans weird.
We haven't done this in a year and a half or 2 years at this point, but basically a little girl and a little boy are playing at a golf course. The girl's dad they're like there for vacation, right? The Sandown is like a vacation island, and I can't remember, it's the Isles of Man or something like that.
I can't remember.
It's one of these little vacation resort islands out in the peninsula. So it's not very big. It's probably the size of a large city, the whole island. But a couple golf resorts and stuff like that. So the dad's playing golf. And he's just like, go do whatever you want. So she finds this little boy and they start playing. And on the edge of the resort, there's a little tiny woods and a creek and that kind of stuff. And as they're walking towards there's 2 construction workers that are working on making a new footpath bridge on this little. And once again, everybody at home, I've been drinking, so this is a bridged story. So the workers see the little girl and boy, go into the woods and play. The girl reports that pretty much as soon as they got in the woods, everything kind of changed. Got really quiet and that kind of stuff. They couldn't hear the construction workers anymore. These 2 men that were talking, just working and stuff. They couldn't hear that. And they go and cross a little stone bridge. And underneath, they hear a strange voice. And then they see this hand come up and go, come down here. They don't hear the voice. They just see the hand go make the motion. Hey, come down here. So they, walk around the bridge and go down. And they see this freaky entity. And I'll try to describe the best I can. this big, like Jack in the Box, the food restaurant head, with the painted on eyes of a clown,
Mhm.
some red hair coming out from underneath the hat, these limbs that had gloves on the end of them, but the arms were made of wood, like sticks. And then the feet and the legs looked like they were also like a mechanism. As they walk around, they see this entity. He's holding a book in this little box, and he jumps. The entity does when he sees the two kids, and he drops his book in the river, and he's trying to get his book out of the river, and he's kind of like trying to walk away from these kids. So the entity is very scared of these two kids, and this, much more story happens. Basically, he starts talking to this box he's holding. It's like a microphone. And he's talking to the box, and he's like, "Hey, we're scared of your people. We're very weak. Our species is very, very weak. So we get really freaked out being around you guys. We're not supposed to be here. Uh, but your kids were, they helped him get his book out of the river and stuff. So you can come back to our hut." So they go to this little shed that's just a little further away, and they get in. It's like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. It's much, much bigger on the inside, and the kids are nervous, obviously, and Sam can kind of tell. So he does this little trick to where he puts a blueberry in his eye hole. You hear it rattling around his head. It comes out his ear, and he gives it to the kids. All this stuff, and so the kids start asking him all kinds of questions, and then it's again very abridged story.
Mhm.
Skipping a lot of stuff, and they're just kind of like, "Well, who are you?" And he's like, "Well, I'm Sam." Like, "Well, what are you?" And they start asking him. He's like, "I'm Sam all colors." Actually, is what he says. "I'm Sam all colors." And they're like, "Well, what's that mean?" They're like, "Are you a ghost?" And he's like, "Well, no, not really, but kind of."
Weird.
It's all the responses are super cryptic and
Yeah.
super weird. And eventually he sends the kids away, and the kids they don't hear anything outside. They run back, the second they get out of the woods, they hear all the construction stuff again. The dad was actually looking for his girl because it's been hours and hours. To her it's been a very short period of time, but to the dad it's been hours and hours. He actually had talked to the construction workers, and he's like, "Yeah, they were, they just went right into the woods right there." And he went and looked into the woods and couldn't find them. But when they came out, so it was really odd. They're like, "No, we talked to this Sam, the clown, the ghost clown, in this little metal hut." And they take the dad, and there's nothing there. It's all gone. So that's a short version. And Sam was actually seen again later on in North America, very similar kind of circumstances. So what we kind of got to is it may have been this where these interdimensional worlds are kind of popping in together for a second. And Sam's species seems to be like the clown head was dirty. It seemed like it was all pieced together from local trash. And Sam was actually much smaller than this big apparatus he was working, trying to look
Mhm.
vaguely humanish. So some of the stories, it depends on which depiction of the girl's encounter you get. And this is in the, I don't even know, the 70s now, or it was a while ago.
Yeah.
Some say that she could see blue vines kind of wrapped around every piece of Sam. So
Hmm.
kind of thought is Sam may have been actually a gelatinous creature or a more plant-based creature. He's using this stuff kind of like an exoskeleton to get around.
Like permeating into it and then controlling it like a doll.
And so why did Sam call the kids down and then get scared? Well, Sam actually made mention he had two comrades out and about during that. He heard somebody walking and he assumed it was his comrade, and he was like, "Hey, I'm down here." And then he freaked out when it was two kids. But there's this weird sound bubble, which we hear all types of paranormal events and stuff like that, where you walk in and everything gets quiet.
Mhm.
Or I've even heard some people describe it, and people we've had on our show describe it. It feels gray. Not that the color,
Oh, that's a really good way of describing it.
everything feels muted or gray.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we get with her encounter. And it's just one of these weird one-off things that we see that is weird. Nothing bad happens. Nobody had a reason to lie. The dad was an extremely high-level lawyer, and he actually wrote down the whole story from his little girl and didn't publish it till many, many years later.
Oh wow.
until I think he was nearing retirement or something like that. And his daughter started talking about it again. And so it was really just this weird thing to where he didn't want to talk about it.
So that's Sam the Sundown Clown.
There you go. Sam the Sundown Clown.
Nice. That's pretty good. That's pretty great. That's a good. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's a really interesting story.
Many more weird things happened. The questionnaire they did
Oh yeah.
was very odd.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of a deep dive into that now after this.
I can't believe he's on a card.
Well, if he's from England, it makes sense because Grimm's Kingdom. Like Grimm's Kingdom probably won't be coming out until 2028 or so, 2027. Yeah, because right now everything is Cryptid Nation based. It's North American based. And then next fall, we actually go to Yokai Island, so it'd be all of Japan and a lot of Asia.
Sweet.
There'll be like 6-7 sets there, and then it goes to Grimm's Kingdom, which is the Grimm Fairy Tale, so all of Europe pretty much.
Isn't it 113 years
113 years
for an object to become a yokai?
Oh, I don't remember.
I think it's
I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So if you look, there's a couple yokai that are actually like shoes, umbrellas, these weird like household items. And I can't remember if it's exactly 113 years, but if an object survives in a household for X amount of years, over 100, they gain a soul and actually become one of these yokai.
Get out.
Yeah. You ever seen the Pac-Man yokai?
No.
Everybody at home, yokai is their word for basically, this is a watered down version, a paranormal entity.
Mm-hmm.
Is, it fits everything from cryptids to demons to everything in between.
Ghosts, right? Spirits, gods, everything. Yeah.
Paranormal, it's yokai. It's just this big umbrella word. But there's a giant, it roughly translates to the smiling man, which we have the smiling man here in North America, very different thing than the yokai smiling man, which literally looks like a giant Pac-Man with 2 little feet. It'll just block your path sometimes. He never does anything to hurt anybody, but he's like, a lot of these yokai are just kind of annoying.
Oh, that's what happens.
But it's a way to call into your boss and be like, yeah, this yokai blocked my way to work today, so I can't come in.
Hey. Oh, that's my Japanese.
Do you have any good yokai stories?
I mean, just the Kappa is absolutely obsessed with buttholes and cucumbers.
Yep.
You have one of your, I don't want to use the wrong word, but your auras, they're roughly
your life force.
They're balls though.
Yeah.
They're like certain not chakras, that's yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Like
sure.
that area.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like described like that, where you have different life points in your body. The Kappa is absolutely obsessed with stealing the one that's located in your butthole. That's not a joke. That is the actual research and literature.
Yes.
The more you know.
Exactly.
And
wow. I thought it was kind of cool though that like yokai like apparently have been part of Japanese court since like its existence. Like apparently there were yokai in Japanese court. Like I didn't realize till I started doing a little bit of research on them how much the yokais were integrated into specifically like Japanese culture.
Actually, fishing reports. We did it when we did our Beast of Antarctica episode. There's 2 different type of oceanic yokai. The ninjin is one that the modern day associates with as being a yokai, which is that big white creature that's been seen in the Antarctic waters.
Okay.
But there's this one that's like a black, slender humanoid, almost like halfway between an eel and a human. Very odd looking, but just big black or just big white eyes, and then the whole body's jet black. And they arrive in the ocean like waves, and they'll attack fishing vessels and stuff like that. I can't remember the name of them, but there's actual documented fishing reports talking about these things, because the fishing fleet in Japan for centuries has been ran partially by the government.
Mm-hmm.
There's basically these government forums that exist with these creatures on it, saying, hey, we stopped this type of fishing because of these creatures. And then there's a giant version that when we did the 4-eyed creature that bobbed up, the Japanese whaling fleet seen and tried to kill.
Mm-hmm.
This giant monster, Japanese whaling fleet, Japanese people, the culture is amazing. The government's horrible. They kill so many innocent whales every year. They're responsible for the extinction of dozens and dozens of species every. What are you laughing at? Japanese government is awful. So the second they describe this as a giant, almost like a pinniped, which is a seal, rising up. And I can't remember the yokai name for it, but it does match a yokai description. And they would have thought it was a giant seal with its head like poking out of the water, looking back like they do, except it had 4 eyes and extremely long whiskers that could have been tentacles. They immediately start trying to harpoon it.
Like you do, you know.
Now this big mythical creature rises up and is looking at him with these big, dark, deep eyes.
And they just want to throw or shoot harpoons at it.
Instantly start shooting harpoons at it. You remember how fast that happens?
Yeah.
When we told the story?
That checks out for humans, though. That checks out for humans.
The Japanese whaling fleet specifically will just shoot everything. That's a whole nother. We could talk about that if you want. I've done talks about whaling. It's bad.
Yeah.
Do you want a sad note?
No.
Okay.
Tell me more about the giant creature that they speared.
No, it got away.
Oh, okay, good.
It got away.
Nobody got any pictures or anything of it, though, I'm assuming.
Japanese whaling fleet? Oh! Dived. No, that was like in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
It was actually the inspiration for not Godzilla, but another kaiju in a different movie.
Ponyo?
No. Ponyo the little goldfish?
Yeah.
No.
So what you're telling me is that Japanese kaiju are real.
Yeah. No, I do think that. So kaiju is a type, is deep. These creatures are deep in Japanese folklore. They look very different than modern day kaiju we see in the movie depictions and stuff like that. Most of them are marine monsters. The Japanese people are extremely tied to the oceans. So they were out there seeing these creatures they couldn't explain. And that's kind of where those legends come from, in my opinion.
Well, that makes sense too. I mean, they're literally surrounded by water. If they want to do anything, they have to actually Sea of Japan something in order to get to the mainland.
I can't remember what the yokai that's a giant dead whale.
It's a literal dead whale.
It's a whale carcass that is like a haunted carcass. And basically, when whaling town, this is a long time ago, when it was much more localized. The whaling fleet now is commercial and it's horrible. But when towns would feel they over-harvested whales this year, this creature could visit them. It was the rotting carcass of a whale, and everybody in the village would die.
Oh.
And there's historic records of this creature, and it looks like a giant corpse of a whale that's kind of floating on green mist. And there's these half-dead birds that are always kind of like circling it, like it's there's these seafaring birds that are picking on a carcass. And the village would know, like some of the early reports we have of this, the village would know they were pretty much screwed. Like when this happens, everybody dies.
Well,
there's
yeah, if you see that.
But it was like the ocean's curse putting back on you.
Right, yeah.
When you over-harvested, when you did too much, when you took too much.
Something
This is what gets thrown at you.
Something we like to call karma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A giant whale carcass with tentacles.
Yep.
A lot of the Japanese yokai have tentacles. It's not my fault.
They have an obsession with tentacles.
They do.
Well, that and Flatwoods Monster. Because I know Flatwoods Monster is huge in Japan. I can't remember what they call her though.
Beautiful lady.
I can't remember what her name is actually over there though, off the top of my head.
Woman.
So if you were at a party and somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, tell me your favorite cryptid story," what would it be?
Oh, you go ahead. Or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay.
You guys are so polite to each other. I love it.
Well, if he doesn't have one, I'll go. I can talk forever, unfortunately. Yeah. But no, I'm going to take the local one, or you can have Greg's if you want.
That's a pretty good one.
I'll do the other one.
Okay.
So, a guy right when we kind of started doing the Bigfoot stuff, very local, big farmer, very very rich man, very old at this point. This year, I think he's going to be 98.
What?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, because she's 95 and she's younger than him.
Wow.
Let's go.
Yeah, their kids are in their 70s.
Wow. Kids no more.
They're older kids.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, so old dude. He comes up. Me and Jay are drinking. I'm drinking.
This is like 3 years ago now.
Yeah, 3 or 4 actually, because this is before the podcast.
Right.
So it's probably 4 years ago, kind of.
You guys at the bowling alley?
Yeah. It's the only place really to drink in this town. We're in Ada, and anybody cares. There's nothing here.
Bowling alley.
They're bowling alley. I mean, it's the best food in town and alcohol. What was he saying? You got me thrown off.
Oh,
Greg.
sorry.
Okay.
Greg.
That's his story.
Oh,
Mine
okay.
is, I will not name.
I'm old Greg.
I'm old Greg.
Old Greg.
My lake. So he comes up to me and Jay. It's pretty late, and you guys believe in all that Bigfoot crap real aggressively towards us. And we're like, yeah, we do. At this point, I didn't care anymore, and it's just, yeah, we do care, or we do believe. He's like, all that crap's not real. Now, before I continue, I do want to tell you a couple facts about Hardin County, Ohio. Is on average when we harvest corn, which we're a corn country, it's on a very, very rough year. Let's say really bad corn is about 6.5 feet tall. Really good corn can be 11, 12 feet tall.
Mm.
And we harvest corn at night. If anybody's not from the Corn Belt, combines harvest corn. They have all these big spotlights on them when you harvest corn at night as well.
It looks like a spaceship.
It looks like a
flying
spaceship.
over a cornfield. Yeah.
And it's so they don't hit anything, right? Because they want to have as much. The combine is a very dangerous piece of equipment. And if a deer or a person, whatever, they want to make sure they see whatever's out there. Because there are people in our fields, like this man individual has had people plant marijuana in his fields and all kinds of stuff like that. And,
like college kids will flatten like a whole little section out and party in the cornfields.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he's like, all that Bigfoot crap's not real. I did see something weird once. I was harvesting corn at night, and as I was driving, and this is his words, not mine, this big black fella stood up and started running through the corn. He's like, that's not the weird part. I could see his shoulders and his head the whole time he was running through the corn. So like I just told you, let's say it's a really bad year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Corn's 6.5 to 7 foot tall. So that's still 1.5 foot taller than the corn. So that's an 8 foot tall thing.
Black man.
And, and that's, like I said, his words.
Right.
He's pretty much a big naked black guy out there running around. And I'm like, you don't think that could be Bigfoot at all? No, Bigfoot's not real. You think Shaq was out there running around or what?
That's why it's important.
And then he kind of walked away.
Yeah, it's important to stay what he said. Yeah. It's Shaq. That's the only person that can fit that description.
Wasn't Yao Ming.
But Shaq can't run that fast.
Yep.
Oh no, and he bolted.
Now, do you actually have a lot of like Bigfoot sightings in your area?
Yeah, we have a lot. It's weird.
More than you'd think. Yeah.
Yeah. For us, we do have a lot.
Yeah. And where we're from, it's super flat. It's just flat as can be.
You can watch Bigfoot run for about 3 days.
Right. Exactly. And there's some trees, but there's not, it's just sparse. It's, it's mostly 90% farmland. Then you have your little square cutouts of, little woods here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't think there would be much action going on here, but yeah, we've heard quite a few stories, especially since we started doing this. People just
we got known as the Bigfoot people, and when you tell your story, you're going to use his.
Yeah, I'll use his.
That's a great example of that. Once we started doing this stuff, of people we knew for our whole lives,
that
never shared this stuff with anybody, and we're like, because it's a hard thing. TV and the stuff we're doing here and all this stuff has made the subject much more approachable.
Mm-hmm.
People don't feel as isolated now. These old timers are the ones who are losing their stories, or, if they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they didn't talk about this stuff. They don't know that people, so now and I think that's why he did that, when he came up and talked to us.
Yeah.
We were the Bigfoot people. We're already viewed as crazy. So whatever he says to us, is nothing.
And he knows us.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about MetaZoo is the actual idea of being able to bring a lot of that to the forefront and make it more socially acceptable, I guess, if you want to say, to talk about that stuff. Because like you're saying, like I remember when I went to Point Pleasant and I was actually doing the Mothman video that I did. A lot of the sense that I was getting from a lot of the older people was the fact that, like you were saying, they wanted to like pass on these stories. They wanted to pass on this lore, this knowledge, but a lot of them are kind of hesitant to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it just goes back to like the whole idea, and I've noticed this too. I mean, expect like you guys have, because I'll be honest, I didn't really get into the whole cryptid stuff until MetaZoo, but I've noticed over the last like easily 15 years or so, more TV shows actually about cryptids. The focus on books and television and movies and stuff like that. Like you're saying, it becoming more socially acceptable to talk about an alien encounter or this thing that you saw while you were on this beach or whatever. Like it's that whole idea I see kind of shifting, and so I don't know. I'm hoping that over the next couple years, like 5-10 years or so, like there will be more people actually talking about these cryptids on a more like normal basis.
It's already happening. I really do. I think it's
well, I think it's happening with certain things, like the disclosure, for example. All of the stuff for the last 2 years with disclosure has gotten a lot more people talking about aliens, a lot more people talking about disclosure, the idea of disclosure actually happening. I think it's more localized instead of it being like the cryptid community as a whole almost.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with that. But I do, even since we've started doing this 4 years ago, you know, if you count the Bigfoot Society.
Yeah.
It's already evolved to a whole different thing.
Yeah, I think so.
It's already a whole nother level. You can go to a bar and you can talk about, like you just said, aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And you may get some looks still, but it's not like, you know, my grandpa, when he was still alive, he just passed away last year. And he was a big part of the show and, you know, supported all this. But before that, he would talk about in the 70s, you start talking about you seen a UFO, people would beat you up. You know,
really?
Yeah, it was violent because they thought you were so crazy that, you know, you're a dangerous person.
Or that just thought you're nerd or something.
That stuff. I mean, seriously, that was the culture.
Huh.
Yeah. And so already, I mean, in 40 years, it's a whole 50 years, I guess now.
Yeah, 70s. Yeah, jeez, that's so crazy.
Wow.
We're getting older.
But even in the last 4 years, and I got to give credit where credit's due. The 2 shows in my head, and everybody has very different opinions on these shows, that kind of, in my opinion, really started pushing the cryptids, at least, into the forefront of the public mind, or Finding Bigfoot, which were very close to a couple of those guys, and Mountain Monsters, which were very close to the couple of those guys.
Mountain Monsters,
I would say is the huge influence on that.
And I think it's both. I think Finding Bigfoot, especially for our family, is kind of the one that pushed that forward to where there was at least people taking it serious. And Mountain Monsters, you know, it's fun, right? It's a fun TV to watch. The guys are all great. We know them all really well.
They're really nice, yeah.
They're good people. But they brought humor to it, right? They made people not only not feel crazy, but able to kind of have that laugh about it at the end.
Right, yeah.
Which
I would take it a step further actually and say that a lot of it is due to the paranormal shows from the mid 2000s.
Ooh,
Sure.
Because there were so many ghost investigation shows or cursed place shows or haunted place shows. Like every single network seemed to have their own version of it.
Yeah, it's true.
And then it is actually, and I never thought about it until you actually brought that up, but it is interesting because from the early 2000s to 2010 or so, it was very paranormal. It was very ghost oriented. And then it's kind of flip-flopped over to more concrete cryptids like Chupacabra, Mothman, Bigfoot, things like that.
They ran the well.
You can't ignore Leonard Nimoy.
Well, I was going to say, actually, you could take it a step further and actually go from the mid 90s to early 2000s and really look at alien life and extraterrestrial things of that nature too. One of the biggest shows was X-Files. I mean, you had Alien Nation.
Right. But I think last decade, I really think is when it got I guess now decade and a half, 2 decades is really when it started getting turned up.
Like the cryptid side of it?
The cryptid, even the paranormal and all of it. It went from being this oddity on TV, this extra thing to throw in, to the forefront.
Because it's always been there.
It's always been there.
Like Twilight, Twilight Zone's kind of...
Yeah, we're not saying that nobody in the 50s, 60s, whatever, wasn't talking about this stuff, because they were.
But it was very niche, though, back then.
Yeah, now it's
once you came out with it, you were the one that cornered that market. There was nothing that compared to Twilight Zone, for example,
Right.
like you were just saying.
It was just that was the only one.
That was it. I mean, Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Or what was Leonard's show? I always forget.
I was gonna say Beyond Belief. It's not that one, right?
Leonard Nimoy. What was his show?
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it.
But that was the kind of the one I think personally was the turning point in the universe.
In the universe?
Yeah, for this stuff.
Oh wow.
To where a serious actor, a known actor, a big name was actually going on and talking about this stuff and really started and then TV networks realized that there was some money in this.
Yeah.
And that's when it really blew up.
And I think, like you said, like you were talking about the Ghost Hunter shows, I never thought about that either, but I used to watch those like religiously. You come home from wherever you were coming home from, like, we got to get there on time and make sure it's playing. Hurry up, record it for me, so I can watch it later. But we always watch those. And I wonder if that was also like when like reality shows were so popular too, like growing. It's like they kind of merged those worlds into a.
Well, they even had the old paranormal reality shows too. Like there's the one show that MTV actually had called Fear. And it was about sending you into this haunted place to do this thing, this task that you had to do. And if you didn't do it, you were out and you didn't win. Like there was always that foundation that was there. So I don't know. That's a really interesting kind of thought process. Like if that is in essence the foundation that has brought us to the acceptance now to where it is socially acceptable to be able to talk about things.
I mean, there were books from the 30s talking
stepping stones.
There's books from the 1830s talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's anything new. And we really pushed that wheel a bit much further than what they were talking about then.
Right, yeah. It's just how it's framed.
I mean, they were talking about interdimensional stuff, different terminology, but they were talking about interdimensional stuff in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a new hat that we're turning now and everybody's talking about it. It's the same stuff. But I think what's special about the time we're living in is with this stuff is that the amount of people that are talking about it, the relatively accessibility to this information.
Right. Yeah.
You can Google any phenomena on the planet and get Google result, just tons and tons and tons of stuff.
Right.
See, I would actually say almost the opposite, to where I feel back in the day, there was more talk about this sort of, and I'm talking like 300-400 years ago.
Sure. I mean,
there was more actual talk about it. And then there was the actual subjugation of basically suppressing that the ability to be able to believe in these things because of either control of a province or an area, what have you, kings, religions. And it's just now over the last like 60, 50 years, like starting to kind of go back to what it was before 400 or 500 years ago.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Sure. I can see that, something like that.
Maybe cryptids are like the catalyst or like the revolution that's coming for
the Beast of Abaddon. The French king took a dog man citing serious enough he sent the army. 400 years ago.
Is that before or after they cut all the French king's heads off?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Which time?
Right. I was about to say which time.
Tired of your poop just said something very nice.
Thank you, Tired of your stuff. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming over here from their Patreon. You got some good people that actually follow you. You got some good people that actually.
We have a great community. I love every one of them.
Yeah.
I love your community. I love your posts and stuff like that. And you always have super engagement on them and things like that. So
we have a great community, and that's probably been my favorite part about the whole podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We're taking a whole bunch of ice fishermen this weekend.
We got a small group of our Patreon members taking up ice fishing.
You were telling me about it before we went live, and I was like, I've never gone ice fishing before, but it always sounds fun. So,
it's Oklahoma Brandon.
Oh, he's tired of your poop?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We love Oklahoma Brandon. You send him his spices?
Yes. Did you get your spices, Brandon?
he won something on our Patreon. But no, tell Greg's story.
Okay. Well, Greg had two stories, and one, I'll tell the one when he was a kid first.
Oh, yeah. I always forget about that.
I always forget about it too, so I want to get it out there first. So Greg's a local guy, lives here in town. But like I've said, I've known him quite a long time and through bowling. So I met him through that. But
and we've known him our whole life, my side of the family.
Yeah.
He's very close friends with my dad.
Oh, okay. So just a guy that's always been around, but and he's a big, tall guy. but he's very soft spoken. Don't say too much. Kind of keeps to himself. And then we started this podcast and everything. Then Greg starts like asking us about stuff, and then he starts opening up, like saying that okay, well he had a couple sightings or a couple experiences. One was a sighting, but the one he said when he was a kid, I think it was him and maybe his. I'm probably going to get some of this wrong, but
tell him how we got him in here.
How we got him in here?
So he never told anybody he had anything Bigfoot related ever.
Just him and his wife. His
wife. Yeah, obviously his wife knew, but like he didn't talk about it.
No, never told anybody.
And
they were the only two that seen it.
He lives a block and a half that way, like literally.
Right now, yeah.
And he came down in studio for it, and he was so nervous. And I just started pouring him beer, and then
he started talking.
Then finally
normal.
started relaxing enough.
Yeah. But when he was a kid, he said, I think it was him and his brother were throwing like a football back and forth, in their yard, just playing outside. Basketball. No, I think it was a football.
I thought it was a basketball.
Well, you don't really toss a basketball back and forth.
They were playing hoops in the driveway.
Yeah, because he said he punted it.
All right, go ahead.
Either way.
Not my story. I'm sorry.
And they heard something in the corn right beside him, like kind of rustling back and forth. Almost every time they throw the ball.
I do remember this.
It would
it wasn't his house. It was his friend's house.
It was at his friend's house.
And his friend said he always heard that thing out there.
Yeah, like following. But they didn't know what it was. So that at one point, the ball ended up getting hit into the cornfield. And they weren't going to go in after it because they were.
Yeah, of course.
So they told their dad, and their dad came out, and they're like, yeah, it went right over there. So he went in after it, and I think he had them follow him. So when they made it into the cornfield, they'd found the ball, but the ball was completely flattened, just like flat as a pancake. And he said they found like footprints and stuff around the mud, like big footprints. So his dad just said, don't go in here more. Don't go in this field anymore. So they never did. And he said he had that experience as a kid and he didn't really think much of it. But later in life, Greg was going, I think it was his
father.
It's one of his parents.
It was his father was.
Or not his father, or one of his wife's parents.
No, it was his. It was his father.
Okay.
Was getting ready to pass away in the hospital.
So they got the call like late at night or during the day to go see him at the hospital because got the call, the times here pretty much. So they went to see him. On their way to the hospital, there was a cow standing in the road, right down the road from their house. Yeah, a bunch of cows were out from the
in our area of the country, that's all. It happens.
Yeah, it
happens.
Okay.
Sometimes they get out. So, they slowed down. His wife's like, cow, like, slow down, drove slow, got past it. So then they made it through there and got to the hospital, spent the whole day at the hospital, and then they're coming back home, and it's middle of the night.
Like 2-3 a.m.
Yeah. And they're getting close back to their house in the area where the cows were. His wife said, hey, slow down. Remember, those cows were out earlier. You better go slow just in case, they're still free. You don't want to hit one. So he slows down a little bit, and then off in the field, they seen two yellow eyes. And then she immediately hits him and goes, cow, cow. So he stops, and then they look over, they both see it. And then whatever it was, it stood up out of the field. And he said it just stood up like taller and taller and taller. And then it walked out in front of the road. He said about 3 steps, it was out of the field.
Crossed behind their vehicle.
And already crossed the road. So he put on his brake. No, wait, it crossed in front. Because they pulled.
It was in the ditch.
Past it. They drove past it beside their car. So he drove up beside it. Because remember, it was right beside his truck window.
Season 1.
And he remembers he looked over it and he was in the truck, but he's eye level with like its torso.
Yeah.
And he said he could see so much detail. He could see the muscles under the hair. He could see the hands and the nails on the hands and how just thick and like tough looking the nails were. He looked up and he could see the face and he seen spots where it had hair, spots where it didn't. And he said he could see its teeth and they were big, white, square teeth. He said it almost looked like chiclets. And, but so he's seen all that detail and he said just muscular. That's all he could describe. Under all that hair, all he could see was muscle. And they got about 10 feet past it and he just put his brakes on. And he said the brake lights like lit up the whole thing. It was still standing there in the ditch. And his wife started hitting him, telling him, go, go, go. So he hit on the gas and just drove away. But so they both had that experience. Never told anybody.
Oh, wow.
until we started doing this stuff. And then
And my dad had ended up saying something to him one time that we started doing this.
yeah.
And that's kind of when Greg started approaching us just about stuff because he trusted my family. Like I said, him and dad were very close growing up. They went to the same school, same area.
Yeah.
So, and then now he's a big Bigfoot guy.
Oh yeah.
They go to all the conferences. They have Bigfoot in the front yard, and I really think it was eating at him.
Yeah.
It does. It hurts people, right? It really does when you hold this kind of stuff in. But in the car, he had his sister and his then wife, I believe.
Oh, was his sister there too?
Yeah.
I thought it was just his wife.
No, it was his then wife.
Yeah.
And his sister.
Mhm.
Because, he's like, because his sister was so distraught she couldn't drive.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, that was probably one of the, I guess, that's still one of my favorite episodes too, because it was somebody we know so personally that never shared. And that's kind of one of the big parts of this show we love is we're getting stories, so many stories every year die with people. They never get shared. They never get talked about, whether it's a giant organic UFO that gets seen, which we've had turned into us, or a Bigfoot, or a dog man, or this big blob. It's just these things are seen every day. And we kind of have this mindset that they are rare in a way, but not when you really start looking at them.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's been one of my favorite things, is preserving these things.
I was going to say, that was the word exactly. You just took that out of my mouth. I was going to say that it's actually kind of really cool that in essence you were preserving these stories, especially like these local stories to y'all.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, you're right. Like these stories are lost every single day all across the world. And it's, I mean, will some of what is being lost be remembered or be relearned? Maybe eventually down the line, but it's one of those things where if you don't document it, if you don't preserve it, then who knows what the entity, whatever the entity is, will do in the future that could potentially harm somebody, or I don't know. There's just I like the idea of actually preserving, especially the local history. Like that's really cool.
We still have, but there's still people locally that you run into that talk to us and is like, still do not believe in Bigfoot or nothing like that at all. Like that's still happening too. Like a couple guys on my bowling team, they don't believe at all. Even though I've been doing that, or how long we say now?
4 years. If you count the
right. If you 4 years. They still don't believe anything I'm talking about or saying, or he's like, I've been hunting my whole life. I ain't never seen nothing. And
we've
all
talked
right.
to hardcore hunters.
Yeah.
Andrew's encounters up there for me too.
Yeah.
As a real hardcore,
Yeah, that one's pretty good too.
All right, spill it.
Oh gosh. Okay. Andrew, Tiny, if you're out there, actually drove all the way over here to meet us.
Yep. Our first probably person we met.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the first person that ever made us feel, I guess, like a rock star. I don't know, like wanted to drive over just to meet us and have a beer.
Yeah.
Drug his coworkers over. And Andrew's been a close friend of ours since then, a very nice man. And he had encounters. He's from Illinois. Yeah, he's from Illinois. But he was in North Carolina at this time. So he was fishing this lake, catfishing every night after work and on the weekends and stuff like that in North Carolina. And I almost remember the name of the lake, Armand or something like that.
I can't remember.
Big A. It's a huge lake.
What part of North Carolina?
I just remember the lake's name is something like A, or Armand or Arnold or something like that.
Okay.
Something. Listen, it's called the Andrew Interview or something like that. We name our shows just how you think. But he was fishing these cutouts, right? And this one cutout he would be fishing, he would get stuff thrown at him the whole time he was fishing it. And he assumed it was homeless people. And then he would move to the next cutout and he'd hear things. And once again, very abridged. He'd hear things out there swimming and doing and diving. And he'd try to rip it back in there real fast to see what was in that cutout. And it would be gone. But you just see this mountain of water, dragged up the hill from on the dirt and stuff like that. What was there, though, was giant mussel beds. And you could see where stuff was cracking mussels open and eating mussels. Everybody, mussels are like freshwater clams.
Mm-hmm.
they get very large. Fat muckets and that kind of stuff.
Oh, my favorite.
Fat muckets, creepers, pocketbooks, and elk toes. That's all types of mussels. What are you laughing at?
Just the
amount of knowledge that you just pulled out right there.
Biology that comes out. Yeah.
There's pink pocketbooks, white pocketbooks, blue pocketbooks, elk toes, pig toes, and moose toes.
Oh, wow.
No, camel toes. Glad somebody laughed. Not.
Ooh.
No, so he would rip it around, and he never caught the creature. So he comes on the show, and it's weird that he kind of talked about that, because in Michigan, where our cabin's located by, there is a similar phenomenon that happened. 3 generations of dads, or 3 generations of men, go out to salmon fish on the Manistee River. So it's a grandpa, a dad, and a son, right? Everybody's, an adult though. So the youngest guy is like 21 or something. And they got a salmon boat, and there's salmon camps up there. So everybody kind of camps in the same area to fish. They get in kind of late. They don't go to camp. They've been driving all day, and they're like, we want to go fish in the river. And you can fish for salmon at night. But these guys kind of like pull off into these cutoffs in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And because salmon, they breed during the day, they spawn during the day. And then in the evenings, they go and rest in these cutoffs out of the current. So they're not sitting there fighting the current all night and trying to breed. So you go fish for them out there. So they get the boat in, and all these cutoffs are just packed with people. Except one. This one has nobody. I'm like, okay, this is just the last one to fill up. So they get in there. They start fishing, and they hear big old splash. And they're like, man, these salmons are giant. Again, a little closer to the boat. Again, a little closer to the boat. And they're starting to get sprayed with water. I'm like, okay, that's not fish. So they're like, big no-no. They turn on all the lights. And like, okay, let's see what's splashing. They're waiting. And they see this giant hunk of asphalt. Sorry, I cut out. Land right beside the boat. So there's a big cliff. The road's like a mile away. Something's carrying these giant hunks of asphalt, winging it off the cliff and almost hitting this boat. They freak out. They get out of there. And they go back to camp, and they're kind of shook up, and they're sitting around the fire because there's tons of these people, like hundreds of people are out fishing, right? It's not a little spot. And they start talking to some of these old timers. Finally, when the old timers like, did you guys ever stop and wonder why you're the only one fishing that cutback? Every other cutback you passed had people in it. Did you ever think why there was nobody in that one? And what we came to believe, and the same with Andrew's encounter, is the Bigfoot fishing grounds, right? The Bigfoot's going in there and harvesting salmon. When you're in his spot, he or she's throwing all kinds of stuff at you to get you to move.
Okay.
And all the locals knew it, obviously, because nobody else was fishing in there.
Right.
These guys that drove up, 10 hours to get up there, and then they like, oh, that one's packed. Oh, there's nobody sitting in this one.
We'll go there.
And the old guy at the fire is like, next time there's probably a reason. If you don't see anybody fishing in that spot, and there's hundreds of us down here,
probably don't fish it.
There's probably a reason we don't sit there.
I wonder if he was near Littleton, because I'm from North Carolina. I'm from the Outer Banks. And so I'm wondering if he was actually by the Bigfoot Museum.
Oh, I should ask. I didn't think.
I'm gonna have to go and find that episode and actually look that up, because I'm like,
we name him pretty much always like that.
I can find it for you real fast while we're
Arnold or Armored or something like that. I believe it was an A named lake.
Well, I found like there was something called the Alaric Creek.
No,
okay. I couldn't find anything for a river, but yeah, no, 100%. I'm gonna have to do a little. I already planned on actually doing a trip out to Littleton, actually, to the Bigfoot Museum out there, because that's I think it's only like 2 or 3 hours away from where I live, so it's not that far.
Couldn't find a Lake Arnold.
Well, no, it's Baden Lake. Badin.
Baden Lake. Okay. Okay.
Maybe that's right. Yeah. But the episode is called we must not have labeled these right back then.
A long time ago.
Yeah, June 9th, 2022. So yeah, Season 1. It's just called That's My Fishing Spot, a Sasquatch interview with Andrew, season 1.
Like I said, interview with Andrew.
There we go.
See, that's a good title.
Yeah, that's my fishing spot.
That's my fishing spot.
That's right.
That's my spot.
All right. So I know you've been itching about to talk about this tonight. So let's talk atmospheric organic UFOs.
All right. This is very unprofessional, but I have to pee before we get into that.
Oh no. Okay.
I have
Okay.
to.
Go for it. Get out of here. I'll give everybody a quick rundown of exactly what I'm talking
Why don't
about.
you talk about something for a minute, Jay?
Well, I can get them warmed up. The atmospheric. I'll get the beginning stuff out of the way. So when you come in, oh gosh, you're gonna tear this whole studio.
I know
down.
I broke too many pairs.
I guess this all started when I was just at work one day and I just get this text from Justin and it just says mushrooms in all caps. And I'm like, huh? And then I get another text followed up and just says, it's all mushrooms! Exclamation point. And I'm like, okay, like I don't have no idea what's going on. That's all I get. And then my phone starts ringing. And I'm like, hello? Like, what's going on? It was Justin, obviously. And he's like, it's mushrooms. It's all mushrooms. I figured it out. It's all mushrooms. I'm like, what is going on? He's like, you need to come to the house. Like, when are you done? You need to come to the house when you're done with work. I got to show you something. So I guess when he was at work, he had put some things together, listening to other podcasts, doing his own research, and finding that, or making the theory that there's atmospheric creatures. Huh? Oh, sorry. There's atmospheric creatures living above us, and they may be of fungal form.
Some of them are.
Some of them, yeah.
I
think you're saying that started it.
Yeah, that is what started it.
So after that start, he dove into just, well, what other creatures are we seeing in the atmosphere? And then that's kind of when got the ball rolling, I would say, for you, right?
Oh, sure. And then it was just, it never stopped.
No, it never stopped.
You shared the call story where I called you yelling.
Yes, the mushrooms.
I was at work. I worked at a hospital at the time.
Yeah. And I was at work too.
This scream. Yeah, but you didn't have anybody there at the time.
No, I was there by myself, but
I'm
still.
screaming and there's patients.
Like, well, I know that like they've been a big thing for a while now, but I know specifically over the last couple weeks, they've become like big. Honestly, I feel like there's a lot more people that have actually become aware of what an atmospheric UFO would be because of the Iraq footage.
The Iraq footage, in my opinion, is not one of these creatures.
Really?
There's absolutely, it's static. If you, the quote unquote tentacles are static, the quote unquote membrane, the bell is static. It, from everything we think is credible video of what is we classify as a creature, actually moves. Pretty much just minus the water and add sky is what these things look like. And we have some extremely, one of our live shows was just showing organic UFO footage.
Really?
Yeah, you were there.
Oh, the ones that we showed.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
You were there. You were ready to be there.
I thought you were talking about, never mind.
You helped present it.
I thought you were talking about one of the shows we were at. Someone presented.
No,
live.
nobody.
I was like,
it's us.
Really?
Well, somebody did present it, but it was you that presented it.
It was you.
I'm aware of that.
Okay. No, so to me, it's very extremely static. The move, it does the shape, the outline of the thing, and I do believe it's a thing in the camera. I'm not saying that the video's fake in any way, shape, or form. The thing on the camera is whatever it is extremely static, whether it's some kind of new stealth drone or the unicorn balloons all piled together.
It looks like those things from Star Wars.
Imperial exploration bot. That's literally what I was about to say.
Yeah, and then a couple of guys did the. Did you see the balloon thing? So here's probably, and I don't like being a party pooper ever, especially when it comes to organic UFOs because it's my thing. That thing, it may have been party balloons caught on thermal image. So a bunch of guys had made like bouquets of party balloons, and it fits that image like perfectly. And all the tendrils are the weights and the lines, and it's like how it floats through. because it just floats, right?
I don't know. That thing was booking it, man.
Even balloons would shift and move around.
A little
I'm
bit.
just saying, like,
A living
I've
thing.
made big balloon sculptures and stuff like that. If it's outside in the wind, I don't know if they would be if they.
But it was 3D, right? They did that thing where they could see that there was something to there.
Yeah.
I can't remember what type of video analysis it's called, but they could see that there was an actual thing in camera. It's not somebody superimposed later. It was a thing. I just don't think it was one of our living creatures. What is weird, though, a lot of our living creatures, and we talked about this, we did an episode recently. A lot of these living UFOs, I do think are only visible or only partially visible in the infrared spectrum. So we talked about, we did an episode where are these organic UFOs being used for technology? Are we catching them and using their propulsion systems, their buoyant systems, their skin for types of technology? And if that sounds crazy, we do it with all kinds of other animals constantly. So it's not, far. So most people don't realize almost all of our big Navy battleships have shark skin on the outside. It's it's man-made shark skin, but sharks are so like you rub a shark the wrong way, it'll make you bleed. But they're so not aerodynamic, aquatically dynamic one way. So it's pretty much
Streamlined,
yeah. They have shark skin on the outside of all of our naval ships.
Yeah.
So integrating organic technology into the Navy or the military is not new. It's been done forever. So maybe that's what we're seeing. Is it this translucent factor or this only visible in the infrared factor from these organic creatures being used in some kind of military test?
Gotcha.
The military has tested new technology on its own basis here in the U.S. hundreds of times. Thousands of times.
I was going to say hundreds might be a low number.
Well, it's the old saying too that the military actually like the technology that's actually out in the public right now is at least 10 to 15 years older than what the military has been using.
Right.
There's that old adage too. So
probably more.
And was that MetaZoo? Is that how you say that name?
MetaZoo. He said, according to Knapp and Corbell, the full footage shows a submerged underwater and fly at speeds exceeding known.
Yeah,
I'll say this:
show it.
If I could see the full footage, maybe my opinion would change. What I have is what I'm going to base my opinion on. I've never seen that in Knapp, and they can say whatever they want. I like some Knapp stuff. It's just
yeah, me too.
You can say whatever you want about whatever if it's not public,
right? Yeah.
I don't know. That's just what I think, in my opinion. It doesn't. Some of the organic UFO videos. I mean, we played a whole bunch of them. What I fully believe are these creatures existing.
Oh yeah,
and they look alive, right? Even the big cloud ones.
The cloud, yeah, that one.
They still look alive.
Yeah,
their shape's kind of hardened, but the stuff inside of them, they look like they're pulsating with life. Some of these deep sea jellyfish and stuff like that look like you. Sorry, cut out. Some of these deep sea jellyfish that look like UFOs in themselves. Just imagine that in the sky. That's kind of the creatures we're talking about, or the giant clams, the living mushrooms. But they almost always seem alive. That thing to me was so static. It seemed like a drone wearing a dress. But not like a flowing dress. I don't know. I don't mean it as in it's wearing an actual dress, but like it's dressed up for some reason, whatever it was.
It was a drone in its cosplay. Drones can cosplay.
There was talk, and one of the things we looked into for that, the footage, is that there may be drones with like hydrogen balloons being produced that kind of skirt through areas of high scrutiny. So they're looking for these high moving drones, these fast moving objects. So to kind of put on the brakes, inflate these balloons, and just kind of glide through. Because everything's looking for these fast moving objects now.
These are not the drones I'm looking for.
There you go. Droids.
I was waiting for it.
Excited for it. Yep. They weaponized podcast with Jeremy Corbell. It's crazy. I don't know. I have feelings about Jeremy Corbell. Synthetic as opposed to organic. Yeah, definitely seems synthetic. Whether it is taken from an organic UFO,
right?
But whatever is being produced there seems very static, very man-made, very whether it's man-made or not, very made.
Non-organic, non-GMO.
I mean, we've had dozens of eyewitnesses come forward since we started doing the organic UFO train. Talk out their sightings.
Yeah, it's weird.
And the way you hear them describe these creatures, even if they look fully UFO, like they look like a spacecraft, they describe them as being alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever get that for the Iraq, or was it Iraq or Iran?
I think it was Iraq.
I'm bad with names of places, but I don't get that with that footage. It does look like a jellyfish print, but it just never, not even a tentacle.
Yeah.
flinch.
And why not show the full footage? Why always just show that one little piece of
Because it's a
clip?
government test.
Yeah. It's something nefarious. Something's not right about it. Something didn't.
Now,
sit
do
right.
you actually feel like these entities can travel in between planets, or do you think that they're actually just stuck in the atmosphere?
So I think it's a yes and no answer to that. I think it depends on who you're talking about. As far as like we've mentioned on our show before, so it's okay to say we have a book coming out about the basic biology of some of these creatures.
Nice.
And a hodgepodge of sightings, hundreds of sightings of all the types. It varies, from the jellyfish to the manta rays, to the snakes, to the squids, of these things seen in the sky. I think most of them are earth locked. The only ones that aren't maybe the earth angels. And
Okay.
the Russian eyewitness is probably about the best example of that, of seeing, the first day he sees 1, 2, 3 mile long angel like creature. And it's kind of humanoid, but not really. It seems like it has membranes and it glows green, blue light.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem like these gigantic, almost gliders. And they're in the very edge. He's at the Russian space station. So most people don't realize this. The space stations are still technically in the Earth's atmosphere. It's at the very edge of it, but they're in orbit, but they're in the Earth's atmosphere.
Isn't it still low Earth orbit?
Huh?
Isn't it still low Earth orbit?
It may be. I'm not going to say either way. Been drinking.
It's in the dome still.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
But I do think some of these creatures could be planet hoppers. I do think that is a possibility. I do think it's the supersized ones that may be only it's called planetary skimming, where they're kind of like basically holding their breath in between planetary systems. When they come into an orbit, they kind of breathe for a minute, and they get some maybe nutrients. They eat a couple people, and then they leave.
Could just be like a frequency vibe type thing as well too, where they actually come just to actually resynchronize.
Yeah.
To allow them to be able, because my only issue with intergalactic organic spacecraft people entity things is that it completely goes against anything because I would almost have to say that it would have to be more interdimensional than biological, because we know the amount of radiation and the amount of all of the stuff pretty much that the sun spits out. I can't think of the name off the top of my head at the moment now, but all of that energy,
solar radiation.
There's Earth species though that survive that right now,
even without the actual electromagnetic sphere protecting us.
Tardigrades are the best example.
Okay, yeah, fair. I'll give you tardigrades, but I mean, again, talking about tardigrades, so that's a complete opposite scale of what you're talking. Monumentous, huge creatures.
But
versus
if you look at starfish, they have microscopic cousins and macroscopic cousins. They have some of the biggest organisms on the planet fall into the same families as some of the tiniest creatures on this planet.
That's true. So I totally believe in the macro micro, where I hate using the phrase, but as above so below.
Yep.
The whole, because you could almost even go a step further with that and actually say that the known universe actually breaks down to a cluster of galaxies, which then breaks down to your singular galaxy, which then breaks down to your individual section of the galaxy, which then breaks down to your actual solar system, which that breaks down to your planetary body. And you can just keep going down all the way from the macro all the way down to the micro, and it all is quote unquote circular bodies rotating around other circular bodies. It's just
circles the whole way down, baby.
So
it's like a spiral drain
or an atom right now.
Yeah. Oh, the Old Men in Black movie right at the end where he opens up the locker. And he opens up the locker, and then it's another huge, big men. 100% believe in the different frequency, planes of existence, everything like that. Man, as above, so below, like that. And I don't know. It's a really interesting thought process, because at what point from that top to that bottom is which point is the one that's actually affecting the entire ladder, if you will, or are all of the ladders actually interacting at the same time, co-creating every single layer of that existence?
I that's what I think. I think it falls just fast down as it does up.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the smallest thing you can do will affect the grander scale
Butterfly effect.
on the big scale.
More similar to the way I feel like the movie The One operates.
I haven't seen that.
It's the movie with Jet Li. Basically to where there's the multiverse. Yeah, where there's the multiverse, and every single version of you pretty much almost does almost the same exact thing. There's a slight variance, but each one of them actually kind of basically the essence of the movie is if you kill one, all that power is redistributed between the remainder of
like
you.
Highlander.
Yeah, kind of. Except it's for a solo individual person. So it kind of, in essence, the entire movie in my eyes reflects the basis that every single one of those versions is connected, and they are similar, but they are still unique at the same time. But they all basically, because of the actions of one, it affects the rest of them as well too.
So before I forget it, because that's how my brain works, all I was getting at is we have species on the Earth that can survive the vacuum of space pretty handily, and they just wait till they get to somewhere else. Like NASA will never admit it, but there are tardigrades on Mars and on the Moon right now, and that may be an issue, for us later.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Huh?
What do you mean later?
When tardigrades start making smartphones, and we look up finally and like, oh, they're the size of people now.
There ain't we've never been to Mars.
Tardigrades for everybody at home are stupid crazy. It's now there's not one tardigrade that can survive everything. Like that's kind of what there's 4,000 species of them just been discovered. There are ones that live in volcanic vents, or there's ones that live in asphalt vents and all kinds of crazy stuff. There's ones that survive in vacuum of space. They are the smallest multicellular animal. They can fit on cells of some other animals.
Okay.
So they are multicellular themselves. But they're so tiny they can fit on single cells of other animals.
So they have different cell sizes?
Yeah.
Are they made of cells?
Yes.
Why are their cells so small?
We don't know.
Is there anything similar to them cell size wise?
No, because they're from another planet themselves. But so they're not as tiny as viruses, right? Viruses are stupid and incredibly small.
Never mind.
Some are.
All right, go on. Sorry.
But viruses are really small. Bacteria are larger, and animals are even larger. So for an animal to be smaller than a single cell bacteria, is incredible.
That's huge.
And then they just sit out in the vacuum of space, be like, and
as long as they don't hit like a star or a black hole, they're pretty good.
All these neutrons.
That warm.
Feels good.
I don't know. Actually, maybe they could survive on the sun. I doubt they could on a black hole, but hey, there might be tardigrades on the sun. Who knows?
That is what a black hole is the adult form of a tardigrade.
Well, that's
we just have never seen their full life cycle.
So what you're saying actually are tardigrades are stars that what we can't fully see the tardigrade. Somehow I just got balloons. I don't know what just happened. That was weird. But
you seen that too. I was about to.
I don't know what happened.
I was like, I had too much of this.
I was like, okay. This is Pepsi. So what you're saying, anyways, to recap, because it's startled by the balloons, is that you start out as a tardigrade, and then they somehow get ejected into space from another planet. Well, they then turn into a star.
If you give them enough
and
time,
then they actually turn into the black hole.
Yes. Yeah. They go from micro to macro to micro again.
Yeah, but
and see, that's what it is. The actual explosion of the supernova is basically the spreading of the tardigrades to the rest of the universe.
They're spreading their spores.
Exactly. I mean, it's just science.
Yeah. We are the science.
We are the science. No, there's a species of tardigrade that only exists in Walmart parking lots. Did we ever talk about that?
You told me about it. I don't know if we talked about it on the show.
You're lying.
No, because it only eats the brand of asphalt that Walmart produces.
Get out.
Yeah,
You're not telling the truth.
I promise.
I'm gonna have to Google that.
That's kind of crazy.
They're highly adaptable. And a bunch of them eat asphalt. Just this certain species started getting the craving for X brand asphalt,
Huh.
which happens to
So
be the most.
could you actually use tardigrades then as an example of like quick evolution?
Okay, so here's the thing with the theory of evolution. We're gonna take all kinds of crazy rides tonight, guys. I'm glad you have listeners in here, because a theory of evolution is just a theory, right? Just a theory. No, I think it's personally. I think there's a lot of right stuff and a lot of wrong stuff as a whole. Because I do think there is speciation evolution or adaptation that happens very quickly. Genetic evolution is much more slower, as far as we can tell. But species change really fast over time. As far as the fish world, we see it where the Taiwan lake cichlids in Africa, they went from in the last 500 years to 2 species to over 400 species.
Shoo.
And that's supposed to be impossible, right? But it happens. No, I think species adapt much quicker than the theory of evolution gives credit for. Is the short answer for that question? As I think species adapt much quicker on, depending on what the species is. Highly speculated species, they fall. Polar bears are the big example right now. Polar bears are going extinct because they're highly specialized. They have a very specific job they do. So the second things start changing, that's right now. Grizzly bears are actually invading a lot of polar bear habitat because they're generalist. So once the polar bear starts fluctuating a little bit in their habitat, the grizzly bear invades because they can kind of do whatever. They don't really care. They'll eat a seal. Do not ever think a grizzly bear will not, if it can catch a seal, it won't eat a seal. But polar bears are pretty much only eating mammals. They're eating blubbery mammals. So when they have to start venturing into grizzly bear habitat, trying to find berries and that kind of stuff, they just don't work. So I think species adapt much quicker than the theory of evolution gives credit for.
Okay.
What?
Well, I can't find the Walmart tardigrade, but I'm doing some research now. You could buy actual tardigrades from Walmart, like a living culture of them, but
that's not a tardigrade he's talking about, though.
No, it's not.
There's 4,000
The only
species
thing
of them.
keeps popping up is they sell tardigrade plushies at Walmart now, so that just keeps popping up, and
Another
I can't get around
crazy
it.
thing with Walmart in species was in Arkansas, where Walmart's ahead of. I think it was a giant type of Jurassic lacewing.
A what?
A bug. It's a bug. It's a lacewing that went extinct in the Jurassic period. Was rediscovered in a Walmart parking lot in Arkansas.
Wow.
Get out.
There you go for a cryptid. And it was an entomologist, like my neighbor.
Yeah.
And he was catching lacewings for other, just things. And he's looking at this one lacewing like, that looks different than anything else, but I know what that is. I just can't place it.
Yeah.
And almost like the movie Piranha, where he had the fossil of the one. He actually had the fossil of that lacewing. And they avoided detection for 78 million years.
Like the coelacanth.
Little more extreme.
Oh, okay.
Because they were living in a Walmart parking lot for the last 78 million years.
Yeah, okay.
Walmart are actually fungal bodies.
Yeah, they keep spreading. It's not good.
Octopi. That's Brandon. But me and Brandon have talked about it. So octopi are probably from other planets. They have black DNA, which means they have hidden DNA sequences that we do not understand. It's just fancy terminology for DNA sequences we do not understand. And up until the 60s, a lot of biologists agreed that they were probably from another planet. And then the alien thing kind of became non-mainstream. Like, no, there's no life out there that, can come here.
Did you ever see the show Life After People?
Yeah.
One of my favorite things actually about that show was the rise of the octopi, because the octopus.
No, I think you're confusing shows.
What am I thinking of then?
The Future is Wild.
Are you sure? Because I really one of the last episodes I thought was actually talking about the octopus.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's both. Because The Future is Wild also does that.
Because they were talking about how within a couple million years, octopuses would actually be on walking on the planet, and how they eventually would they they actually said that octopuses would be swinging through the trees in essence.
That's the future as well.
Okay, it is future as wild then. Okay. Yeah, I just thought that was the craziest thing in the world that they apparently had.
They're already there. So you know why octopuses aren't killing us right now?
Because of our technology?
No, absolutely not. They die as a part of the reproductive cycle.
Oh.
All of their knowledge they have is genetic. They have no learned knowledge from parents.
Huh.
The second they get over that,
they can write something down.
They're going to kill us.
You think?
Because here's the thing. They only lived, most cephalopods, which is the octopus squid family, cuttlefish, only live to be about 3 to 4 years old, max. Giant squids, for example, we think only live to be 2 to 4 years old.
What?
They are extreme. Cephalopods grow really, really fast. They have, short lifespans relatively. But almost every cephalopod on the planet dies as a part of its reproductive cycle. So octopus are incredibly intelligent. They figure out that My Octopus Teacher is a great documentary about it. We're going to have that in season 5. Going to really dive it in, where this family takes in this octopus, and it has tunnels in all the rooms of the house where it can swim through and do stuff. But like it dreams, they have complex dreams. It stole a camera, but it understood what the camera did. It was taking pictures of all the family members.
Mm.
And so they have a grasp of technology. They have this deep understandings of stuff, but they die as a part of the reproductive cycle. So all that information is lost every generation. So the amazingly complex nerve system that lets them grow and develop these, this genius brain dies every time they reproduce. So their offspring have to do it all over again. They're really good at it, but they have to do it all over again. One of the other few animals, as far as I know, the only non-mammal that uses tools as advanced as they do. So once the second one octopus survives to teach her offspring how to live, all the learned information she had, not the genetic, all the learned information she has, they'll kill us all.
I'm interested to actually, because that makes me think of the idea that learned behavior can actually be stored in DNA itself, like the memory itself. If you want to go to the Assassin's Creed route, you can use that as an example. But that I know, and I honestly, I feel like there's some credence to it. The idea of the last 100 years or so of advancement that humans have actually had is because of the stored collective consciousness, if you will, whatnot. The idea of people having epiphanies or thinking of this idea or this pattern over here is because it is stuff that we've already created in our past, and it's basically just an idea that we're accessing in order to bring it back into fruition now. And I wonder, if that, I don't know, it's a really interesting thought when you actually bring up the idea of the octopus.
Yeah, there's genetic and learned knowledge. Like for humans, for example, genetic knowledge, we have genetic fears. So it's crazy in the world. Almost all people, and this relatively speaking, are scared of spiders and snakes.
And water.
And water in the dark. Those are the kind of top fears, because we did it when we're also scared of human-like objects, human-like things. It's called the Uncanny Valley.
Yep.
That's another one of our really popular episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it's genetic knowledge. We had enough of our ancestors either die and get sick from those animals that we have a genetic fear of them. And now we know that, you can tell the difference between a venomous snake and a non-venomous snake easily now as a human in modern day. You can look up that information. You can be like, okay, rattlesnake and a rat snake are very different animals. Even though people still have that fear of them, right? A rat snake cannot hurt you. Even if it bites you, it cannot hurt you. There's nothing that thing can do to injure you.
Does it stink like a gardener?
Yeah.
Oh, that hurts.
But yeah, so that's information that gets stored in our DNA. And we did it when our soul episode, actually.
Our consciousness one?
Yeah, our consciousness episode.
Yeah.
Where we talked about that there's this weird kind of tie that we humans don't understand. As a scientist, it doesn't matter what a scientist says. Scientists will argue you can find somebody in the opposite field of everything.
Unless you are the science.
Unless you are the science. Eat the bugs. No, so you can You got me all off track.
I'm sorry.
What was I saying?
Talking about science. Soul episode.
Science doesn't know everything.
Consciousness.
I think that's kind of the culture we live in right now, is we think science knows everything. And no, science does not. Science is not one entity. It is hundreds of thousands of people with very different. I know it's shocking. With very different ideas. So
it's not what the news told me.
I'm reading questions. The Pacific Northwest tree octopus is a really cool one. It's 100% fake, but it's real. It's also with the inland walrus.
Inland walrus.
Mm-hmm.
That just does not sound like that makes sense at all. Inland walrus.
Hey,
sorry.
Walrus and elephant seals end up in places you do not expect them.
That's true.
Like in mountains.
I don't remember. You look at me like I remember this stuff.
Bunyip episode.
Okay. We've done a lot.
The episodes.
I don't know. That just took a huge, crazy tangent, but that was the idea of consciousness, the idea of memories, especially traumatic events. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you. Have you guys ever actually talked about the Great Deluge?
Never really dived into it.
No, we actually haven't. Yeah.
Okay, for anybody that doesn't know, the Great Deluge is the, I guess, event in human history which it somehow involved the flooding of most of the known world. There are accounts from countless different civilizations. Religious texts actually talk about it famously over here in America. I guess you're going to say like Noah's flood. But there's tons of different references to it. Mm-hmm. And that supposedly is what collectively has given humanity its fear of water. It also is used as an explanation of why there are, which some of this actually can be explained with the ice age and melting and such like that. But certain areas of the planet where you'll see pyramids underwater, like 60 meters down, such like that. Like
not Graham Hancock. What's the other guy?
Randall Carlson.
Randall Carlson, when he talks about this is either done from 12,000 years of erosion or 8 days of mile-high floods.
Yeah.
And when it's weird with the geology, it makes more sense to have the 8 days. In some of these areas you go to and points out, like, we know there wasn't these, thousands of years of X flooding in this spot. Mm-hmm. So it would make more sense that it was a much faster event. It was catastrophic. And there's not shy of catastrophic events. As humans, we kind of think that our limited memory is all of history. Mm. The worst blizzard. I mean, we're relatively all the same age, so we don't have it. But you talk to the older generation that we have a lot.
The blizzard of 78.
78. That's literally what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And that's the worst, the worst climate disaster they can think about.
My dad talked about jumping the school bus on his snowmobile during the blizzard of 78.
Oh wow.
But if you look at least the fossil record, there are some events that are literally hell.
Yeah.
But the Jurassic Cuddle is one of the ones we talk about on the show a lot.
What's that?
It's a primitive pseudo mammal and a giant amphibian were cuddling in a burrow basically as the world was ending.
They found a fossil.
They found a fossil, and it definitely looks. The amphibian had recently been injured, and the fox could have eaten the amphibian. Essentially, I call it a fox. It looked much more like a fox and could have eaten the amphibian. Instead, they looked like they were cuddled together. They did not seem like they were fighting, and it just shows that animals, in my opinion, are much more intelligent than people give them credit for.
100%.
And literally the sky during the end of the Jurassic was on fire. The lightning and floods and just hurricane. Like, it was one of the worst extinction events on the planet's history. So why wouldn't two animals just take comfort and be like, okay, the world is literally burning and raining. It's just literally hell on earth. So I guess I was saying with the Younger Dryas event that the earth is not shy to these world-ending catastrophes.
Right. So
if humans survive, like you said, the one where it was the big floods, that's going to scar us forever. We may not remember it, but like you said, inside of us,
we do.
We know.
Yeah.
That's bad news bears, right?
Didn't Plato say he went to Egypt and talked to an Egyptian priest, and he said, yes, there was the great, deluge, but he says that was only one. He's like, there was like 9 more
Yep.
before that. You just remember
Something like that. Well, and that's the thing too, and it you don't really think about it like in this context at all, but it wouldn't take much to erase most of modern human history.
Mhm.
I mean, you take the population of the planet, and let's say there is another asteroid, or let's say there's a solar flare, even, or something like that nature, and you reduce the population of the planet down to, let's just say, 400 million people. That's nothing in comparison to the 7-8 billion people that we have currently right now. And that 400 million people does not mean that they're all going to be in the same spot.
Right.
You'll have 20 people here. You'll have 50,000 over there. You'll have 10,000 back over here. And just because they have 10,000 people does not mean that they're going to be able to sufficiently keep the things that we have running right now running in order to keep our type of, I mean, we'll still survive, yes. But I mean, there's no way that our type of world that we live in right now would even be able to recover to any sort of resemblance of what we have right now for a while after something like that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so there could have been countless number of times, and it doesn't even have to just be human, honestly. There could have been countless number of civilizations, countless number of species, honestly.
Whales actually were on the planet before humans.
Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, 100%. I mean, you look at the entire timeline, pretty much, of like the moment that the Earth was able to sustain life as we know it right now.
There 2 days before.
And I mean, you look at like where like what humans have existed for
nothing.
400,000 years, I think, roughly.
It really is.
Or humanoids have existed.
It's hard to draw that line because what do you want to call a human? What do you want not want to call a human? Because it's been a while that our ancestors have been around, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of, I think, I remember right, 10 or 12 million years after the dinosaurs went extinct, there were advanced primates. But they weren't humans, right? They were, they're advanced primates. So where do you want to call that line? Where does it stop being an advanced primate and start being a human? Is it 50 million years ago? Is it a million years ago? It doesn't, it's just these arbitrary lines we were drawing. But the primate relative was living during the end of the dinosaurs' age. So we were ready to go, just like the giant terror birds were ready to go. It was whales.
Whale. It was all whales.
They have a much more complex communication system than we do.
I thought it was all crabs.
It's crabs the whole way down.
Everything turns to crabs.
Carcinization.
Yeah.
It's always crab people.
Always.
Carcinization. That's the word. For everything becoming crabs?
Really? So there's an actual word for that?
Called carcinization.
Oh, wow.
Which means to become crab. It's the crabs have separately evolved. I think it's 19 times.
That's crazy.
Okay,
so like segue. One of my favorite things actually about the pandemic, which I know there's not a lot to be about. I know, right? Thank you. I say that out loud, and I had to be like, "Wait, time out." I wasn't a big fan of the pandemic. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But anyway, there was a Facebook group that was started that was all about the rise of our Leviathan god. And immediately, of course, me being me, I had to join it. And the whole idea is that lobsters don't die naturally. They die because they are too big to molt. And the idea is that we are going to pass this lobster from generation to generation to help it molt itself until it becomes a monstrous creature that can destroy cities. And we will pray and worship our Leviathan god.
So
one of my favorite thing from the pandemic, lobster god.
Also impossible because they'd stop breathing at a point.
Really?
Their respiration system, arthropod respiration.
Yeah, but over the generations, they're going to figure out how to fix that.
Never mind.
See? That's, thank you, Jay.
The only true immortal on the planet is the immortal jellyfish.
Still alive.
I mean, we don't know. You know what the immortal jellyfish is?
Mm-mm.
Do you know how jellyfish reproduce?
I do not, actually.
You're going to learn. So jellyfish are incredibly complex animals for quote unquote how simple they are. They have no centralized nervous system, so no brain, but they have up to 26 to 38 eyes, depending on which species you're talking about. They have these giant, they see everything. They can operate mazes, complex mazes, without a brain. We don't really know how they work. The reproductive system is incredibly complex, but I'll, as far as I can dumb it down, they produce an egg and a sperm like any other animal, right? It forms a zygote. The zygote is kind of like a fish.
Mm-hmm.
Swims around and it finds a nice rock on the bottom of the seafloor. And it kind of launches onto the rock and melts down into putty. The putty then forms a flower, like a classic flower out of your garden. And then inside that flower, another flower forms, and then another flower forms, another flower forms, so on and so forth, till the last flower is formed. Then that last flower starts becoming a jellyfish, and then breaks off and swims away. And then it does it to all the flowers, and then the base just kind of melts away. Really complex reproductive cycle with mixes of tons and tons of other species because jellyfish are so ancient. The immortal jellyfish, though, has a little kicker for it. So jellyfish are very, weak-bodied animals. They get hit, they kind of die. So the immortal jellyfish, when it gets hit, it actually takes the remaining mass of its body, melts it down, skips most of the reproductive process, and gets to the end where it reforms a new jellyfish, a baby jellyfish. So if it gets damaged, it hits the reset button, and it turns into a baby jellyfish again. But here's the thing. It's the same genetic thing with the same genetic material. It's not a clone per se, because it's not you taking DNA and making a new thing. It's the same thing melting itself down and reforming itself into a baby.
Like the T-1000.
Yeah, I was just about to say, the T-1000 from Termentic.
We don't know how old these guys are, right? We have individuals that one scientist estimated them to be 45,000 years old because they don't die. I mean, besides being swallowed whole, even if a chunk of them survives, they're going to reform into a little jellyfish.
Now, time out. Let's say you take one and you cut it in half. Does it form two jellyfish?
Yeah, it will. If there's enough genetic material, enough of its central nerve system to reform, it depends
So
on
it, in essence, would be two copies of itself.
Yeah, it'd be like you cutting yourself in half but surviving.
It's like a life hack.
That's insane.
But it's you, right?
Mm,
So the argument is, do they have that knowledge from all of their life? And they're just like saving themselves. They have the ability to hit the reset button and reform as a baby.
Huh.
Does their brain their memories reset?
Right.
Well,
we don't know.
Do they turn back to the goo and everything?
Yeah. But we don't know. They don't have a brain, but they are able to. So we did this with flatworms. We talked about it to where flatworms that are trained to do these mazes. So flatworms are another animal that doesn't have a centralized nerve system. They don't have a brain. So we train these flatworms to do these mazes. And everybody knows at home, you cut a flatworm in half, it grows 2 new flatworms. So traditionally, they cut these flatworms, but they just cut butt end off. There's almost no grouping of high-end nerve bundles. So nerve bundles are kind of the step below what we'd call a brain, even in these really simple animals. So they cut off the butt of these animals, essentially have no nerve bundles. They let them regrow, reform into a new flatworm. They still remember the maze.
I was going to ask that about jellyfish, actually.
So jellyfish, we haven't done those high-level experiments with yet.
Ooh, they need to.
It's just a little hard.
Interesting.
Jellyfish are very expensive to keep in aquariums. So as far as these studies go, it's much more an expensive process to actually figure out. But flatworms remember things in its genetic memory with complex learning.
Huh. That's crazy. That actually they would remember the actual the maze itself.
But it comes to, I wanted to ask you this before I forget. When we did our consciousness episode, and that's where the jellyfish and the flatworm comes from, is there's this weird question when we talk about consciousness. Where do you yourself feel that you are in your body?
Oh.
Now, there's no wrong answer, right? There's tons of different answers to this question. And sometimes it changes. So I just however you think.
I mean, I would imagine that most of it actually is just due to sight. So I would imagine it would actually be more would be around that, the eyes itself. But that's not entirely true though, because Yeah, that actually does bring up the question of, well, where exactly is the consciousness itself?
Where do you feel you are in your body?
Uh, like,
It's a hard question.
first instinct says me, just like my body itself, but then more actual thought of it would actually be, like I said, more like around the ocular area.
So I'm personally, that's where I fall. Is 99% of the time I'm in my eyes, right? I'm right behind my eyes. It's where I feel I live in my body.
Mhm.
Depending on depending on the high emotional stakes, I feel like I am in my chest. Whether it's extreme anger or extreme happiness or sorrow, I do feel like I drop down into my chest.
Or your battery terminals bust.
That was a different thing.
Oh,
I could have killed. I feel like you
Mine
are
was
most of the time. Your
up
eyes
here
too.
too. Yep.
But we looked at the polls of that stuff, and everybody answers it differently. We just all happen to be the same kind of type.
Mhm.
But you ask 100 people, you'll get 100 different answers. Sometimes it's always like whatever, it's the eyes, the chest. Sometimes a person is 100% always one spot, which is fine. There's no right or wrong answer. It's
Yeah.
just how it is. And some people move around a lot. When you're fighting, like if people have been a lot of brawls when they're younger, a lot of times they actually say they feel like they're in their fist.
Hmm.
And that could be where it's the most impact or pain or remembrance. That's where those nerve bundles are growing. And then, but the heart, the chest, the head, it's all this stuff, the stomach, even.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I could see that. I could see like the normal chakra areas. That would make sense.
And that may have been where that stuff's based off. I don't know whether it's vice versa or whatever. But it's just interesting to think about. But when we start looking at these more simpler animals, which I think is maybe the wrong terminology, flatworms, immortal jellyfish, these kind of things that don't have a brain, and they still have consciousness on a level where they remember the maze. They figure it out. They can still do the same test, but it's not the main part of them.
Right.
So is it more that every cell of our body has some of our quote unquote soul attached to it? I don't know. And then you hear the amputees or that still
Phantom
feel
limb, yeah.
or vice versa. I can't remember what the movie is, but where you get a heart from somebody else and you have some of their passions, you get a transplant, and for some reason you pick up a new hobby.
Bicentennial Man.
No, actually, there was a report last year, actually, in the BBC about, oh God, what was it? The guy, he got some sort of a transplant. I don't remember what it was, but after the transplant, he actually started talking in an accent.
Wow.
And it wasn't one of those things he was faking. It just literally just that's just how he talked.
Like we talked about like some of the guys that, like, for example, we play euchre, but like guy didn't play euchre and then he gets a heart or a liver from a euchre player, and it's just something that pulls him towards that game. Then is it a part of that genetic knowledge? Screaming at like, this is a part of us.
There was one story I heard of a woman who she got a heart transplant, and she never liked peanut butter. She never ate peanut butter. But after she got her heart transplant, for some reason, she had a hankering and she wanted peanut butter. And then she finally met the family of the woman she got the heart from. The lady was in an accident, but it was a daughter and her dad lost their wife, so she donated her heart to this other woman. When she met him, the daughter revealed to her that her mom loved peanut butter. Her mom always ate peanut butter right out of the jar and everything. And this woman, now that she got her heart, she just she craved peanut butter, had to have it. So it's kind of weird. And, some things have to carry over.
It's weird to think about consciousness. I mean, for example, I'm a Christian, so I believe we have souls and stuff like that. And I do think, but a soul is and isn't consciousness. It's a whole, it's its own thing. But I do think it's tied to our whole bodies, not our brains. Like I talk about it even on the show, the lizard part of your brain. I do believe in it's just runs your functions. It does nothing more than running all of your respiratory functions, your heart functions, trading amino acids around, all this stuff that we don't have conscious control of. Your breathing's that weird one that kind of transfers. And it's probably from us being hunted for a long time. To stop breathing for a second because there's a big cat 3 feet away. But 99% of the time you don't think about breathing, you always breathe. It's not like you have to think about pumping your heart.
Right. It's because we're robots.
In a way.
It does it automatically.
Isn't all life?
Yeah. electrical.
I mean, you are kind of correct. We are like in essence organic robots.
Mhm.
I mean, our body is nothing more than just an exoskeleton that we are meat puppets in essence.
Living tissue over. Wait, how's it go?
Living tissue. I don't know.
It's
The Terminator.
yeah, Terminator. Living tissue over metal endoskeleton. I am a cybernetic organism. That's what he says. Living tissue over metal endoskeleton.
I should have been reading more questions. Everybody had in eyes, brain, heart.
Definitely not toes.
Definitely not toes. But no, it's very interesting. In a lot of people have nuances with it, where it's like right at the heart or the chest as a whole, right? People may not realize. Some people may not realize the heart's on your left side, right? It's sitting way over here, relatively when you look at us, anatomically. But when you feel like your soul's, I would never say I felt like I'm in my heart. I'm in my chest.
Mm.
I had to really say when I, really worked up or whatever, whether the emotion is, it's like right here across your chest.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I would point that back to the chakras because that's the exact spot, pretty much where the chakra point's supposed to be.
It's just a chicken before the egg thing. Who what is first?
Which came first?
Yeah, the chicken or the J.
Well, that just brings up the whole idea of like frequency, though, as well too, and the actual individual vibrations of the universe itself. I'm a huge, big believer in string theory because I love the idea of the resonance from that basis level existing, resonating all the way up to creating the physical reality around us. I'm a really big believer in consciousness co-creation. So pretty much in essence, everything in our physical world around us, we are co-creating at any given moment. And we take advantage of the fact that everything is physical when in fact, literally nothing around us physically does exist. It's all just the light waves bouncing off of the objects around us and us physically manifesting everything around us.
Even so, your brain lies to you all the time. And I'm right there with you. That doesn't, to me, it's
a really easy example of what you're talking about, though, too, would be anybody that's colorblind.
See, an ex-girlfriend of mine and me got in the worst fight ever over a color because I'm colorblind. But colors are not, I think it was White Kids, even did the skit where they switch bodies. Like, your blues are purple or your blues are red. And, because they switch bodies and we all can point at a color and agree that the word for that color is green. But when you actually look at it through somebody's eyes, it would be your blue or your red or whatever. It just doesn't matter. What are you laughing at?
Just weird to think about like that. Oh, no, I was just going to say like everything we touch or see
all manifested in our brain.
Right. But we do create it. Like everything starts as a thought.
The duck experiment was what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Sorry.
But everything starts as a thought, and then we pretty much create it. Like we bring it into reality.
For everybody at home, next time you're driving on the highway and you see these ponds that always have water on them inside the highway, there's this thing called the duck experiment, where the brain paints all ducks like mallards, which are the green-headed ones, or they're all brown ones, and they paint every goose as a Canadian goose. But if you take a second to actually look, sometimes you won't find a single mallard or a single Canadian goose. Your brain just told you they're all brown or they're all black head, brown body. And then you really look at them and you realize there's not a single one of those out there. There's green heads, there's pink heads, there's blue heads, all these
pink heads,
red teals and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
There's all these crazy colored animals out there. But when you really start looking, the ones you could have swore a second ago were all out there.
Yeah.
Are not there at all. It's because your brain lies to you for the easiest amount of information processing. Your brain will throw out all the extra information you don't quote unquote need until you really start looking at it. So that happens in our everyday life. And the weird thing in physics, I'm not a physicist or nothing like that, is that when you slap a table, technically, there's more space in between, in your particles in your hands and the particles in the table than there's not. So you should be able to pass through the table.
But you can't.
You can't.
Well, you're technically never actually touching the table either, too.
Right. There's all this weird stuff. I don't know. Like I said,
another really cool one I like is the fact that the sun is technically the sun itself. What color do you think the sun is?
Well,
yellow.
yellow. Yeah.
But it's not
No,
though.
It's white.
It's more white. And the
Okay.
reason why it looks yellow is because the light, when it's diffused, the actual light, when it's diffused through our atmosphere, shoots all of the blue into the sky.
Yeah.
And it makes the sun appear to be actually yellow. The sun is white, though. And like that's one of those things where we've been, I don't want to say conditioned, but we've been taught that the sun is yellow. And
Rockefellers made the school systems.
Yep.
And it's because it's the easiest way to kind of explain instead of having to go fully in depth of, oh, it's white and then the light diffuses and it does this and goes to here. And like it's color. I love color theory. Color theory is one of my favorite things.
I mean, where is the sky blue?
But yeah, I love like that whole kind of mentality, that aspect.
Oh.
I didn't hear what you say. What'd you say?
I didn't
Propaganda.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, the sky gets bluer towards the edge.
Wait, what?
Crayola propaganda.
Oh, Crayola.
That was great.
Drunk to taste this chicken.
I'm too drunk to taste this chicken.
Man, I don't know what else to ask you. I'm gonna have to bring you guys back on though. We could just talk for hours. We've been going for 3 hours now, though.
We cut out. Does anybody have any questions in the chat before? I got a question for you before.
Okay.
What's your favorite MetaZoo card? If you had to pick one. I know it's a hard question.
If I had to pick one,
more about it.
My favorite card of all time would that's a hard one.
And then while he's thinking, everybody, if you got questions, put them in the chat. I'm taking over the show.
Oh gosh.
Well, my first initial thought, honestly, was Stargate Project. But I don't know. I like Stargate Project basically just because it talks about that like the Men in Black basically have abducted one of the aliens, and a great seance is probably going to be needed in order to actually figure out the psychic blah 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 blah. But I like the idea of I know we talked at the beginning about how you're not a big conspiracy theorist guy, but I love the idea of the Stargate conspiracy theory about the Anunnaki and Tiamat and how there was the great battle, and that's one of the reasons why the asteroid belt was destroyed, and the Anunnaki were actually imprisoned on Earth because of the Stargate that actually surrounds our planet, using the moon to pretty much lock the Stargate into place. It's one of the reasons why we haven't gone out from space, because the Anunnaki literally for the last 2,000 years have been ushering humans towards space in order to be able to break free of the prison that they live in. But the radiation belt, in essence, is the Stargate that keeps us in pretty much our planet itself.
So what you're saying is we need to blow up the moon?
No.
No, because we don't want to release whatever is trapped inside.
Yeah.
It's the egg.
It's a big egg. Doctor Who
Hey,
said so.
I saw the video last year of the big moth basically breaking out of the moon, and the moon. I don't want none of that. Whatever's asleep in the moon, let it sleep.
Let it sleep.
No, burn it.
So I see.
Oh my god.
I seen Meg asked, and why is it squonk? Because MetaZoo
Oh yeah,
said squonk.
What's your favorite card? It's the squonk, ain't it? Your favorite MetaZoo card, squonk. The
Hey,
holographic squonk.
No,
I have holographic and reverse holographic.
I don't honestly know if I have a favorite card, to be honest with you.
It's not the white Mothman.
No. I mean, I don't know. I mean, actually, I have a really cool card. All right, my favorite card in my collection, or my favorite MetaZoo card in general.
In your collection. That will narrow it down. Make it easier for you.
All right, if I had to pick my favorite card in my collection, honestly, and I am going to be showing off, I don't care, is that it's the first signed influencer card.
I have one.
I got Afton to actually doodle and everything at New York
cool.
during Earth Tower. This though is actually the PFP card that was in the PFP NFT set that they did. That this is actually the card for the PFP that I actually use for like all my different socials and such.
So Jay, what was the cryptid on there?
I couldn't quite see it. Look like a mushroom.
No, it was wearing a hat.
Okay. I still can't. My eyes suck. Why are you asking me? I'm way back here.
The Cumberland Dragon.
Was it really? Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Oh yeah. Okay. Wait, we have not that card in particular, but
we do. That one, the one he just showed. Yes.
Right, that one. Yes.
Signed.
The one from the one from Wilderness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge Cumberland Dragon fan, and it's mostly due to me getting that PFP, to be completely honest.
Brandon asked, where do babies come from?
All right, Mr. Biology.
We're an everybody show, right?
Oh my God. Babies come, well, it depends on what species you're talking about.
Like for humans, for example,
species.
So the penis is inserted into the female.
All right. Do you ever look at the sky and see foggy particles?
Wait, huh?
That's what Meg asked. Do you ever look at the sky and see foggy particles?
I see those little what are they called? The little things in your eyes that look like the little squiggly line.
Actually, I can't remember the name of the show.
Called?
But Gerald, friend, Midwest Skywatchers is the name of their YouTube. They have some really cool videos of that kind of stuff, to where it looks like the stuff caught in your eye, but on camera and stuff like that.
Oh, weird.
It's very odd, to where you could look up and see that and be like, oh, it's an eye floaty.
Floaty, that's what they're called.
That's not really what they're called, but
that's the preferred nomenclature.
Yeah, that's what I've always called it. Yeah.
Sorry, cut out. Midwest Skywatchers on YouTube. They have some really unique videos about that kind of stuff. They have stuff because they I think can't remember if it's Indiana or Illinois, Southern, where they just have perfect those clear skies, and they just they like to stargaze.
Drifters, air rods. Okay.
Let's see. What's the next question?
Mini lines in the sky.
I do. I have never have, but I've heard stories.
What kind of lines? What are you talking about?
Almost like, is it they're talking about like the lines you see when people claim like they see almost like the Matrix, like the lines, the screensaver in the Matrix. Huh? Is that what it's called?
I think MetaZoo actually had it right. I think they're called air rods, right?
Air rods are the ones that look like they're swimming. They have like the big fins on the side and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about the big, like the whole sky.
The whole sky lines, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right, like they see the
sky's breaking apart, or it's all one screen or something.
Right, or you see like the programming, like behind the veil, like something like that.
Well, there is the actual theory that, and it actually has more proof that we are living in a simulation versus not. And they say that they have more proof for us living in a simulation versus not. So
here's what I'll say about either flat Earth or simulation. It doesn't matter.
No, yeah.
It really, truly, our everyday life, how we function, how we work, it doesn't matter.
That's why I don't believe in space. Doesn't matter.
There is. It makes me think of that one Reddit story though about the guy that hit his head and then had a full life, married, had kids, everything like that, and saw the lamp across the room 40 years later. Like, if that stuff actually is possible, then I mean, we could be in essence in that point right now, like basically re-experiencing it or experiencing it right before death. That's
the buddy,
weird.
Comedian Ari,
Joe
Rogan's buddy.
Ari?
Yeah, I think he's Jewish.
Oh yeah, Ari Oh, I know who it is. I can picture his face.
But he did. I can't remember what drug it was on camera.
Now I need to look his name
and up. He had that kind of experience.
Really?
He had kids and all kinds of stuff, and he broke it when he came.
Ari Shaffir.
Ari Shaffir. He came to, and he freaked out. He started bawling, and he was in a depressive state for literally months after.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
Because he had kids.
Yeah.
They were going to college and stuff, and he came too.
Yeah.
And they were so real to him.
And Alex Jones also talked about having like dreams like that too.
I can see Alex Jones doing way too many drugs.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he's telling the truth about those dreams, it's basically the same encounter. Saying like
everybody keeps saying salvia. Like, yeah, salvia actually has been known. I don't know about that type of intense experience though, for like where it would be lasting for years on salvia.
Like you're doing manual labor, working on a farm, you're raising children and stuff. Like this is the worst trip ever.
I've raised 16 generations of these chickens on this farm. Like I that does not scream salvia to me.
That's like tapping into some like
what's the sleep drug?
Ambien? No, it's not Ambien either.
Oh.
Or
like that's some other level stuff.
They were on Ambien and the hotel caught fire. They didn't believe anybody. Joey Diaz was talking about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like
they were using Ambien, and Joe Rogan went to try to wake him up because the hotel was on fire to get him out. He's like, "Yeah, it's all. None of it's real."
Yeah,
like because he was just thinking it was an ambient hallucination, and he was gonna burn to death in a hotel. As Joe's checking out.
That's another conversation that because I definitely want to bring you guys back on later on in the year. But that's another conversation we can actually have too when you guys come back, is the different experiences people can actually have, whether it's through the influence of a drug or an alcohol, or like deprivation of themselves, or like sound deprivation, and the experiences that they can actually have on a conscious level, or even almost down to a physical level too. Because like, yeah, people talk about salvia and stuff like that. And I know people that have actually smoked salvia before. And yes, it was only like 2 minutes, but they were somewhere else for those 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of the consciousness itself, the entity, it existing
getting all that with
in a different state. Like,
we have a lot to talk about that. Yeah, that'll have to be a different episode.
Well, because it just kind of, and it goes in kind of like with my idea of how the veil actually operated in MetaZoo, where the veil actually, the operation of the veil was, it separated, literally negated any sort of anything that could be considered magic, or anything that can be considered magical or supernatural. It just literally negated it. So some of the entities and stuff that we're actually seeing on our side was viewed with that, basically the magic, I guess, in essence, being drained away from it completely. So it'd be a completely different object or thing versus what it would be if it was infused with that actual aura, that energy. So yeah, that would be, that's kind of a cool thought process. I'd love to actually talk more about that with you, but we've already done this for 3 hours, so I'm not.
It's been 3 hours.
I don't want to. It'd be another 3 hours of us literally just talking about that in consciousness.
Yeah, you didn't know that. Yapping away, huh?
Any more beer?
What are you talking about? We just started, man.
Throw at me. Yeah.
It's 8 o'clock. I don't know what you're talking about. We just started.
I thought it was 9, to be real honest.
I think he's on salvia.
No.
That's where he went. He didn't go to the bathroom.
No, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
He's freshening up.
Well, dudes, you're awesome. Like, every chance that I get to hang out with you guys and talk with you at the different events, like CrypticCon, Water Tower, like Mothman Festival, like every single time, it's an absolute pleasure. This has been probably one of my favorite interviews on Let's Talk MetaZoo 2, just because it's all cryptids, crazy theories. Like, you guys are amazing. If anybody that's watching this, whether it's live or after the fact, once it actually goes up on the channel, definitely go and check out all of their content. I have, like I said, a link down in the description to their website, to their Instagram page. Definitely go and check them out. Congratulations last year. Like I said, like it was, you said right at the beginning of the year, you guys just hit 1 million downloads.
1 million.
That's huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that's a crazy number. But yeah, you guys are awesome. Especially I know you had a lot of your followers actually show up tonight. So thank you guys actually for coming out here supporting them. If you are new to MetaZoo, definitely ask questions. You can leave some comments down below if you have any questions or anything like that. If you want to get into more cryptid content, though, follow these guys. Like I said, one of the initiatives I actually have for this year for 2024 is to incorporate actually some of the cryptid content creators, basically show them to the MetaZoo community, because there's so many great creators out there covering all of these crazy fantastical ideas, these theories, and like the support network that they actually have is ridiculous. By the way, I love how much you guys in the cryptid community proper support yourself, like, or not support yourself, but support the other creators, like support that community. I love that a lot of the stuff has become more socially acceptable, like we were talking about earlier tonight, to actually talk about in public, to actually talk about these experiences, these stories. I love that you guys are actually doing well. I love that that Justin is doing the hard work with the research of
That's right.
looking into all of these stories and all these cryptids and everything like that as well too. And just keep up the good work.
He's the ice cream sundae. I'm just the sprinkles on top.
There you go.
I love it.
T-shirt now.
There you go.
That should be a t-shirt. You're right. Do you have any closing comments or anything though you'd like to say?
Just we thank everyone for all their support, and yeah, you can find all of our information, all what we're getting into on cryptothecorn.com. What else we got?
Don't look at me.
I don't know.
Check out their season 5 finale on what?
Four finale.
Season 4 finale.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Uinta Basin.
Uinta, yes. Not Unit A.
I hate you.
Different story.
Funny.
Definitely make sure to go and actually say hi to them too if you ever get a chance to go to any of the cryptid conventions that they are at. They go to a bunch of them. Definitely make sure to go over there and actually talk to these guys though.
Got a bunch this year.
Yeah, we're speaking at
the Hocking Hills Bigfoot Festival.
Squonkapalooza.
Yeah, both in August, first and second weekend.
We're emceeing Encounter Quest
in April.
In April.
That's in your neck of the woods, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see you there.
Yeah. What's the first festival you guys are going to? Is it going to be the Loveland Festival?
Yeah.
Loveland
in March.
Okay, cool. That seems to be honestly like the first technical real convention.
It's early, especially for a Northwest conference like up here. That's pretty early because you never know how the weather's going to play out as far as people driving in and stuff like that. Sometimes 5 degrees and nice, and then a lot of times we're still in our ice.
Yeah.
Hey, it was cold last year, actually, if I remember. One of the days it was nice, and the other day it was freezing.
You people from North.
Hey. It is cold now. It is cold now. I'll take some snow. All right, you can send some snow my way.
I
love it.
I'd love to. Yes, it's
cold.
cold.
You want some? We had 1.5 feet.
I'll take 6 inches of it.
No, you can have all of it. So thank you for having us. We love you and we appreciate you.
Of course. Again, these guys are Cryptids of the Corn. They are cryptids enthusiasts, researchers. I had no clue that you were actually a biologist either, too, because that has to be crazy useful when it comes to actually doing some of the research and explaining some of these things and actually looking at it from a real scientific point of view. Like that's so cool. That puts another like level of credence actually to your content. In my opinion.
Layer. Yeah.
I like that. I really like that. But yeah, definitely, like I said, go check out their content. All the links and everything, like I said, are down below in the description. And we'll do this again sometime later in the month. Or not in the month, sorry, later in the year. Next week, actually. No, we'll do this again sometime later in the year. But I hope everybody has a good night. And thank you again for joining us for Let's Talk MetaZoo.
Bye.
Bye,
everybody.